The Mets are back in the Big Apple after a trip out west, winning 2 of 3 in San Diego. Now the test for Terry Collins' team taking on the big boys. Yeah, the Milwaukee Brewers are in town, the Central Division leaders, with those 2 big bats, Fielder and Braun, in the middle of their lineup. The next 9 games for the Mets against teams that appear to be headed for the postseason. At Citi Field in New York, PIX11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball tonight. The Mets play the Milwaukee Brewers. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez joins me in just a moment as the Mets open a 3-game weekend series against the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers lost yesterday to the Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw, but despite that, they have won 19 of their last 22 games and opened up a 7-game lead in the National League Central. They have been the powerhouse team in that division this year. Milwaukee has traditionally done it with offense, and they've got some offensive weapons, but the difference this year for the Brewers has been their pitching.
Well, it's something that the front office in Milwaukee went out and tried to improve on, and that they did. They picked up Zach Greinke from Kansas City. He's won 12 ball games for them. Starting pitcher tonight, Shaun Marcum. He's won 10 ball games from them, acquired from Toronto. And, of course, everybody knows about K-Rod coming over to them, and he's strengthened the bullpen to go along. He's the 8th-inning guy for their young saver, John Axford, who has 36 saves. So this is a ball club that's 7th in the ERA. They don't walk a lot of people, and they strike out a lot of people. And lately, they've been hot the last 30 games with an ERA at 2.30.
Now, the Brewers have scored fewer runs this year than the Mets have, but they've got those 2 big boppers in the middle of their order.
Well, the 2 All-Stars, Ryan Braun, of course, 329, only 7 points behind Jose Reyes, number 2 in the National League in the batting title run there, the title run. And, of course, Fielder with the home run power that he's got. He's a free agent. Boy, what a year he is having, 90 RBI. Braun with 77. They're the 2 big guys, 3 and 4, both hitting over 300, 3 and 4 in that lineup. Both hit lefties and righties. It doesn't matter. They're just 2 of the best 3 and 4 combination in the National League.
On the mound tonight for the Mets, Mike Pelfrey, who got hit on the elbow during his last start in Phoenix, then turned in a relief outing on Tuesday night in San Diego.
Well, they just wanted to get Mike some work in San Diego because he left early with that line drive off of his elbow. He said it felt good. It's been an up and down year for Mike. I'm sure he's not happy at 6-9. 1-1 lifetime against the Brewers.
And on the other side, Shaun Marcum, who has been death against right-hand hitters this year.
Unbelievable. What a lift he's given this ball club. Right-handers hitting 182 against Shaun Marcum, and you can see that number right there in the graphic. He started the game against the Mets. He got a no decision, went 6 innings, only gave up 2 hits, no runs.
Mets won 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee earlier this year. Now they take on the Brewers in their home ballpark. Mets try to win a homestand opener for the first time all year. All the action coming your way tonight on PIX. Kids go free to Citi Field with the purchase of a regularly priced ticket. Up to 3 children 12 and under will get free admission to games through September 1st. That's a Thursday. Get to Mets.com/kidsfree for tickets and details. Who's Hot brought to you by McDonald's. I'm loving it. Troy Tulowitzki has had a big second half for the Rockies, who are otherwise going nowhere. The Dodgers are not going anywhere either, but Clayton Kershaw making a Cy Young bid. He had a great game against the Brewers yesterday, 8 scoreless innings. Curtis Granderson, 34 home runs this year, hitting .355 this month, as he has had a wonderful year up in the Bronx. The Mets trying to get a homestand off to a good start as they take on the Brewers here at Citi Field. Fans are ready. So is the grill. First pitch coming right up. Citi Field, if things were going according to plan, Mets would be taking the field right now. However, there is some weather that is moving into the area, and it's rather a serious line of thunderstorms that's just off to our west. So it appears as though they are holding up the start of the game. And you can see grounds crew member on the phone there trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen. Now the pitchers are warmed up. They're both back in their dugouts and ready to go. But I guess the feeling is that they don't want to start this game, play half an inning, and then have a downpour after that.
I wonder how the starting pitchers feel about that, getting all loosened up. And it's never a good thing to have more than one warm-up before going into a ball game. But there, as you said, Gary, I'm looking over at your computer.
And watching the grounds crew members go and retrieve the bases, which is a sign that they're about to cover the field.
Yep.
So they're pulling up first base and second base, so that tells you that they do plan to cover the field, and they're now covering the home plate area.
Well, it means that, break out the cards, go back in the clubhouse and play a nice friendly card game, do whatever you got to do to pass the time until this system passes. But the starters, it's got to be a little more difficult.
Yeah, from a pitcher standpoint, what you'd prefer is that they make this kind of decision before they start warming up, because now that they've gotten loose and gotten hot and ready to go, it's almost as though they've already started the game. And if you have to sit for an hour or two, then that might have an impact on their availability.
Well, it's a golden rule that you never want to get your starting pitcher warming up twice. So that's why a lot of times in lengthy rain delays, they don't come back. They go in for a shower, and there's the weather. It's getting a little dark. Hopefully it'll pass through quickly. But like Gary said, it is pretty heavy, it looks like. Just hanging over Jersey.
Well, there's the current playoff picture in the National League, and right now the only real hot race is in the National League West, where the Giants gained a game on the Diamondbacks the day before yesterday.
Well, there's a couple good races over there in the American League, but the National League, some teams have opened up. Some Phillies are just running away with it. That's a nice looking youngster there.
He found the TV camera.
There's a ham.
He's pointing at us.
Oh my
Now he
goodness.
told his brother to make faces at the picture, at the camera.
So he's holding to stick his tongue out.
What he doesn't realize is that he's becoming famous for sticking his tongue out at the camera. There he is. He didn't know there was a camera down there, I'll bet.
Those rascally wabbits.
You know, the discoveries you make as a kid, sometimes it's a frog in a lake, and sometimes it's the lens on a camera.
Nope. There's Shaun Marcum right there. I'm sure he's not happy. He's all lathered up.
So the grounds crew is at the ready. They are now just about to unroll the tarp. So we're going to have a delay at the start of this game, the opener of a 3-game series between the Mets and the Brewers. And so we will be waiting here for the game to begin. Keith and I will be here to bring you every exciting pitch. But for right now on PIX11, we're going to take you to this episode of Smash Cuts. Enjoy. We'll see you in a little bit. To about 2 hours and 45 minutes. The Mets and Brewers are about set to play baseball. Mike Pelfrey coming in from the bullpen after completing his warm-up tosses and set to take on the first place Brewers tonight. Shaun Marcum getting his final warm-up tosses in for Milwaukee. The Brewers holding a 7-game lead in the National League Central, with the Cardinals losing this afternoon. And Ron Renicky, who by the way is celebrating his 55th birthday, brings his Brewers to town, a red-hot team.
Excuse me, Gary. I mean, a cough there kind of snuck up on me, but they are red hot. Won 19 of their last 22 and have taken command here in the National League Central. In their division, they are 36-19, so they've dominated their division.
You know, sometimes it happens if you haven't talked for 2.5 hours. You know, it takes a while to turn your voice back on.
Well, I'm ready to go, and
I can see that.
I've remembered rain delays like this a lot when I played.
Sure. We used to start games late because of rain, or complete them late because of rain. And this one likely will stretch into tomorrow, but this is the only time that these two teams get together at Citi Field this year. So with the rain moving out, every effort made to play the game. And so we are about set to go. The lineup cards being exchanged at home plate. And here is the starting lineup for the Milwaukee Brewers, brought to you by Mazda. Zoom, zoom. Well, it'll show up anytime. Now, there it is. And that terrific 3 and 4 combination of the lineup. 2 MVP candidates, Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder. They anchor a Brewers lineup that is 6th in the National League in runs scored. They're without a couple of their key players right now. Ricky Weeks out with an ankle injury, and Carlos Gomez out with a broken collarbone. But with those two guys in the middle of the lineup, it hasn't mattered much who they have put around them.
Well, look at the slugging percentage, and particularly the both on base percentages, Gary. That's just incredible right there to have that from your 3 and 4 hitters.
And how do you choose between them if you're trying to mark your MVP ballot? Braun is 5th in the league in on base percentage and 2nd in slugging. Fielder is 2nd in on base percentage and 5th in slugging. Pretty much balanced each other out.
Could cancel each other out. Who knows?
Shades of 1988. 1988, the Mets had the 2 best MVP candidates in Darryl Strawberry and Kevin McReynolds. They canceled each other out, and Kirk Gibson Won the MVP that year.
Yep.
Well, Mike Pelfrey taking the mound for the first time since his relief stint in San Diego on Tuesday night.
And Mike has not won since back in July 27th when he beat the Cincinnati Reds. And that was kind of the high water mark for the Mets, if you recall, the 4-game sweep of the Reds. And he's looking to get back on the winning side. And the Bank of America Metropolitan defense made a lot of errors lately, coupled with a lot of pass balls. So the defense has not been a real strength of this ball club, a ball club that has obviously been hampered with major injuries to key players.
Check out the keys to the game brought to you by Cadillac. Visit Cadillac.com to find a dealer near you.
Well, Mike's always given up runs in the first inning. That's been tough on him. He's got to throw a goose egg up there. And obviously the 3-4 hitters, you got to keep them in check. And the bullpen's got to get its act together. It's been struggling of late.
Bullpen ERA in August is 5.73, and there really hasn't been anybody immune from that in that bullpen, with the possible exception of Jason Isringhausen, who was honored before the game tonight for his 300th career save that he achieved out in San Diego during the road trip.
That was very nice to see. I saw that live, listened to your broadcast when I was laying on my couch.
Well, glad you could tune in.
We had a couple days where it rained.
You know, we ran a text poll during the game on Wednesday to ask people about their viewing habits for West Coast games that start at 10 o'clock. Ask them whether they turn it off after the first 3 innings, after the first 6, or whether they watch the whole game. And half of the people who responded said they watched the whole game, even at 10 o'clock.
Those are diehard Met fans.
And you were one of them.
Well, yes. I watched the last. I just happened to. I had a nightmare. I woke up.
Mike Pelfrey about set to get things started as Corey Hart steps in to lead off. And at 9:56 p.m. we are underway at Citi Field, and the pitch is high for ball 1. So the rain delayed 2 hours and 46 minutes at the start, and it appears that the rain has moved out and should not be a problem for the rest of the night. Hart hitting at 267. And Pelfrey misses high with the fastball and quickly behind 2-0.
Well, Hart has been moved into the leadoff role since Ricky Weeks, this all-star second baseman, sprained his ankle. And really not a leadoff hitter.
Well, Weeks was having a terrific year, and they certainly miss him. But the Brewers have certainly thrived without him, most recently winning 19 of their last 22 games. And Hart lifts one out to right center field, and Baxter getting the start in right field, puts it away for the first out. So Mike from Whitestone makes the first play of the game. 1 out. Here's Nyjer Morgan, former Pirate and National, playing center field. He had been platooning with Carlos Gomez before Gomez went down with a collarbone injury. Lately platooning with Jerry Hairston Jr., whom the Brewers also acquired from Washington. And Morgan's having a good year, hitting .312. He's hard to walk. In fact, he has more hit by pitch this year than walks. Not too many hitters have that. 9 times he's been hit by a pitch, only 7 times has he walked.
The Mets beat the Brewers 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee. And when we were there last year, a lot of guys weren't hitting on this ball club. Braun and certainly Fielder weren't one of them. Fielder had a big day, a big home run day, but Morgan was really not having a good season. He's off to a slow start. McGee, who is still not having a good season, wasn't hitting.
Well, we mentioned it in our open as Morgan, it's a slow ground ball. Tough play for Harris against Morgan's speed, and he gets it out of his glove just in time. Really, Harris uses that second baseman's mitt that looks like an outfielder's glove, and sometimes it's hard for him to get the ball out of that thing.
That is a big glove for particularly a second baseman, a middle infielder.
But the Brewers really are not winning with offense right now. In fact, they just finished off a 6-1 homestand, and in the 7 games they scored only 19 runs. And they scored 6 of those runs in the first game, 13 in the next 6, and yet they went 5-1. Which tells you they're getting great pitching right now. Here's Ryan Braun. Braun's second in the National League in batting, just 7 points behind Jose Reyes, who is frozen on 336. Braun at 329 in the first pitch slider, grounded down to third, and David Wright boots it. Routine play for David, And the error prolongs the inning.
Well, a little bit of a layoff here. It is routine. And he just flubs it. That's all. It happens. He used two hands. I just taken his eye off the ball a little bit before he took it out of his glove.
David had a spectacular defensive game in the Mets' most recent game Wednesday in San Diego, including that great fake on Cameron Maybin where he tagged him out rounding third after faking a throw.
Well, he had no shot at throwing the runner out on that ball down the line. It was really a poor base running on Maybin's part.
9th error of the year for Wright, so Fielder bats with a runner aboard. And a big cut at the fastball by Fielder, 0-1. Here's that play from Wednesday.
He can't throw anybody out from there. And Maybin that's just embarrassing. And a nice play by David, taking advantage of a clunker. It was a clunker play. Nice play.
Maybin's reaction was priceless. He was ducking to get out of the way of what he thought was a throw, then looked over to first to see where the throw had gone and realized far too late that it had not been released. Pickoff trying very close, and Braun gets back.
Well, Braun's got 23 stolen bases on the year, only caught 4 times. He's in the top 10 in stolen bases in the National League.
With Weeks out of the lineup, he is their #1 stolen base threat. Mets do not put on the full shift against Fielder, who takes it wide, a ball and a strike. Most teams will play Prince with 3 infielders on the right side, but the Mets are not opting to do that. Casey McGee waits on deck.
There you see the defense right there. Out in the outfield is Harris.
Well illustrated.
Oh.
Braun runs, pitch inside, throw by Toley, not nearly in time. Braun got a big jump against Pelfrey, who's been very easy to run on this year.
Well, Milwaukee out of the chute, feeling pretty frisky. Now, they're the only team in both leagues that are in the playoff hunt or in first place that have a losing record on the road. And they are 10 games under 500 on the road.
Of course, they're 30 games over 500 at home.
No one has a record remotely close to them at home.
Good square by Pelfrey to get even 2-2.
Well, Mike's coming out throwing pretty good right now. He's throwing hard. There's your release. See the split finger right there. That's why they call it the split finger. And gets Fielder out in front.
2-2 to Fielder with Braun at second and 2 out. And it just missed outside. Another splitter from Pelfrey, 3-2. Fielder has a good eye at the plate. He's second in the National League in walks, second in on-base percentage. 27 home runs, 90 RBIs. That's second in the league. Three-two from Pelfrey. And a line drive, base hit into center field. Braun turning third and heading home. The throw to the plate by Pagan is up the line and cut off. It's an RBI single for Prince Fielder. The Brewers take advantage of the right error and take an early 1-0 lead.
91st RBI for Prince. And also the 82nd run scored by Braun. And that's a pitch he got up in the strike zone. Fastball he wants in, and it just bleeds out over the middle. Nice hitting. 2-strike hitting.
First run of the game brought to you by the all-new Chevy Cruze. Find the Cruze and 9 other Chevy models with 32 MPG at ChevyOffers.com. I don't think Pagan had any chance to throw Braun out at the plate, but Angel's throws lately have been way offline. I don't know if he's doing something mechanically or if he's, I don't know what it is, but the last 4 or 5 times that Angel had made throws, they have not been even remotely close to online. And that one would have been 20 feet up the first baseline if it hadn't been cut off.
There's Jose.
McGee fouls one off, and it's 1-1. Reyes has been running the last few days and plans to run the bases on Sunday. He's eligible to come off the disabled list Tuesday, but it is a stretch to think that he'll be ready then.
I would think that they would be very, very cautious. And if I was Jose, I would not rush it back.
1-1 to McGee, who's hitting at .239. And he takes the breaking ball in the dirt, 2-1.
Well, we're here, Gary. You know, I might as well play. That's the old saying. We drove from our homes, left our families at the ballpark.
Going out to forage, here. Let's going out to forage for food. Is that what you're saying?
Let's just play it. We're here.
Well, we are playing it. The game's already starting, Keith.
I'm very happy about that.
2-1 to McGee. And he flares one to right field. Baxter's going to play that ball on a hop. And Fielder will go first to third. So a couple of 2-out hits for the Brewers from Fielder and McGee after Wright's error opened the door. A run is in, and now they have first and third and 2 out.
Well, a little flare here. That's a fastball, inner half. Wanted it away. Mike, who started out red hot, I felt throwing hard. Now it's kind of getting some pitches over the middle.
So an early visit from Dan Warthen. You had talked earlier, Keith, about Belfry's first inning woes, and you know the run in this inning is unearned, and any further ones will be unearned as well. But nonetheless, this is an inning where you really have got to stop the bleeding.
Well, it's only one run in. He's 1 out away, so let's get with it and get a ground ball, get an out here. Here's one of the other guys right here, this shortstop Betancourt, who was not hitting at all the last time the Mets played him in Milwaukee, but he's got his average up in the 260s.
And Betancourt jumps back 1-0. Betancourt 0 for his last 14. Just a .282 on base percentage.
And he's only got 14 walks on the year, Gary. He's a hacker.
And has had his troubles defensively as well. It's not a very good Milwaukee defensive team. See the first inning runs Pelfrey's allowed, especially lately, which have put him behind the 8 ball. Remember, Mike started in Arizona on Saturday and made it through 4 innings pretty nicely, although he did give up a couple of first inning runs in that game, then settled in before the Gerardo Parra comebacker went off his elbow. It only grazed the elbow, hit mostly off his hip, but it forced him out of the game. There's Ricky Weeks, who hopes to be playing by early September for the Brewers. Tejada coming in, will play that ball on the backhand, so he's learned a little bit. That's the play that bedeviled him on the last homestand, but he makes it perfectly to keep another run off the board. 1-0 Milwaukee. Terry Collins has gotten every available left-handed bat into the lineup today against Shaun Marcum, who's been very tough on righties. That's why Justin Turner sits and Jason Bay sits, although the Bay day off had been prearranged to give him a couple of days off in a row. He's been struggling so badly.
And there's Shaun Marcum, a fine season he's having. Got for a hot start, but 10-3, you can't sneeze at that. That's pretty good. Noted the right-hand batter's hitting only 182 against him. Only 41 walks. And the Bank of America Milwaukee Brew Crew defense. It's a lot of errors for an infield, is it not? We were talking about that at the top of the inning.
Well, Fielder's made more errors than any major league first baseman. Casey McGee leads the National League third baseman in errors, so it's not the tightest defensive infield, although Craig Counsell gives you a little upgrade there. He's played very little at second base this year. Angel Pagan had a good road trip. Hit .345 in the 6 games. And he's been on base 14 consecutive games as we start this series.
Marcum, reason probably he's got a good changeup, gets a lot of lefties to roll over ground balls on the right side of the infield. But he's a guy that works fast, Gary. With the game he pitched in Milwaukee, he throws strikes, he goes after hitters, works fast.
Pitched 6 scoreless innings against the Mets in Milwaukee on the 7th of June. Allowed just 2 hits in that game, although he walked 4. That's a game the Mets won 2-1 on a Jose Reyes triple late in that game. Mets took 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee against a team that has lost only 1 other home series this year. Willie Harris on deck, then David Wright. After an unearned run, put the Brewers in front of the top of the inning. And Pagan slaps one the other way, and that's a foul ball. The Angels swung very late and just trying to put it in play. And he's been doing a lot of that lately. That's why his average is up. With that start for Marcum against the Mets, the only time he's faced New York. He's had a lot of no decisions this year, 12 of them, including his last 3 starts.
Much unlike Zach Greinke, battery, his one of his starting mates, is 12-4 and missed some of the season in 20 starts. So getting 16 decisions in 20 starts. Zach Greinke.
Well, the Brewers pitching has been just outstanding lately. There you see Marcum's recent numbers. But as a staff over the last 30 games, they have a 2.3 earned run average. They have really kicked it in gear the last month. There's Greinke. It was a big pickup for the Brewers in the offseason. Off-speed pitch misses, and it's a full count to Pagan. Randy Wolf has had an outstanding year. He'll face the Mets tomorrow. Giovanni Gallardo, who had been their ace, now has more company in that rotation. He'll go against the Mets on Sunday. Mets will miss Greinke. Their fifth starter, Chris Narveson, is hurt right now, but they filled in nicely. Pulled to the right side and into right field, a base hit. That's an outstanding turn at bat for Angel Pagan to get the Mets started. He's now reached base in 15 straight games.
Well, fastball wants to come inside. You can see the catcher set up in, and it's up and in. And give credit to Pagan right here. Nice hitting.
So the Mets get the leadoff man on. Now Willie Harris, starting for the second straight game at second base. We've talked a lot about Justin Turner's, I don't want to call them injuries, but he's been banged up. Legs, his hip. You can really see it mostly in his range at second base, and so Terry Collins has been trying to catch Turner as much rest as he can. And so Harris getting some more playing time at second base recently. Harris had a couple of hits on Wednesday. Much needed for him. Hitting a .244 for the year.
Pagan really opens up, almost facing second base when he gets ready. Not this time. Of course, he's not quite there. He gets that little bit of that turn of his hip towards second base.
25 steals. Moving up in the National League. First time that Reyes got hurt and Pagan was asked to fill in as the leadoff hitter, he really struggled in that role. This most recent stretch, the last 10 games, he has looked a lot more like a leadoff hitter. Trying to get on base, use his speed. And he's running. The throw by Lucroy on a hop, and Pagan comes up short on the slide, and he's tagged out by Betancourt. So I don't know if there's something wrong with the dirt around second with all the rain that we had. Braun almost had the same thing happen to him in the top of the inning, and Pagan gets stuck in the mud.
He gets like just buried in the mud. And comes up way short. And I do think with a clean slide, he's out by a mile too. So you got a little bit of a wet travel. Nice tag.
At the knees for a strike, and it's 2-2 to Harris. So Pagan is caught stealing for only the 6th time in 31 tries. 1 out and nobody on. 2-2 to Harris with David Wright on deck. And he taps one foul. Again, the 2-2, and Willie takes low and in. So Marcum's gone to a full count on each of his first 2 batters. It's not a formula for a long outing. He had the same thing happen to him against the Mets in Milwaukee. That's why he only went 6 innings in that game. Threw a lot of pitches early in the game. And Harris keeps the at bat alive.
Notice in his windup, Marcum, he keeps the glove really spread open and maintains that openness of his glove when he goes into his motion. And I got to believe that someone instructed him a long time ago. He's probably tipping his pitches really spread wide open and stays wide open.
And the theory there is that if you close it and then change your grip for the changeup.
Well, like Rusty Staub, my former teammate and great friend, always used to say one of the most prevalent tip-offs that a pitcher gives is having a closed glove and going in to dig in for the breaking ball grip, opening the glove.
Harris breaks his bat and pops it up. Counsell, the second baseman, has it, and there are 2 out. Throw that on the fire.
So we see more and more bats breaking and splintering today. Just to me, that just no thank you. Give me good old-fashioned white ash.
Although in defense, I think it's gotten a little better than it was a couple of years ago. They put in some little higher standards for those maple bats. But it's just that they break so violently.
Hey, just let me have a white ash bat. Let me groove the grain and bone the bat against the porcelain sink.
David Wright hits one out to center field. And Nigel Morgan right there. And so Marcum, after the leadoff single by Pagan, he's caught stealing. And he's through the bottom of the first. 1-0 Milwaukee. Second inning, 1-0 Milwaukee. Jonathan Lucroy, the catcher and number 7 hitter, leads off against Mike Pelfrey. Lucroy hitting at .286 with 9 home runs, and he takes a strike. Lucroy in his second season has become the Brewers' #1 catcher, age 24. And he's been solid both offensively and defensively for Milwaukee. Pelfrey gave up an unearned run in the first inning, retired the first 2. David Wright made an error on a routine ground ball by Braun, and the Brewers cashed in. Braun stole second, and Prince Fielder brought him in with a 2-out hit. And Lucroy lifts one out to left, where Jason Pride's playing tonight. 1 away. So Lucroy retired, 1 out. And 40, soon to be 41-year-old Craig Counsell will bat. He'll be 41 day after tomorrow. By the way, it's a big day for birthdays today. Ron Darling, our partner, is off because it's his birthday, and we gave him his birthday off.
I didn't realize Ron was that old.
51. He's still the youngster in the Brewers.
Looks much younger.
Maybe he uses your products. Counsell takes inside. Chris Capuano, the Mets left-hander, is also celebrating a birthday today. He's 33. And we mentioned the Brewers manager, Ron Renneke, 55 today. Counsell recently recovered from an historic offer. He went 0 for 45. That's right, 0 for 45. The streak ended about 2 weeks ago. It tied a major league record for the longest offer by a position player.
Yes, Bill Bergen of Brooklyn, 1909 did it, and Dave Campbell. San Diego, St. Louis, and Houston. I guess he would be moved along to 3 teams.
Imagine
in 1973.
That. Soup had a 3-city offer.
Oh boy. Good Lord.
Which apparently he was not aware of until recently, when Counsell began to threaten the mark. Weak ground ball down to Duda, and the easiest of plays for the second out. So 2 out and nobody on. Now the pitcher Marcum, who has 7 hits this year. Well, the good news on Pelfrey is he seems to have no ill effects at all from the line drive that hit him in the elbow 5 days ago. And I think that was the point of pitching him on Tuesday night in San Diego. This is the shot by Parra that hit him off the elbow. Mostly grazed the elbow and got him on the hip. But it was enough of a mark and swelling that they were not going to take any chances with him. So they took him out of the game at that point.
And as you said, did a little relief work. Inning of work in San Diego.
Just 8 pitches worth, 3 batters, gave him a couple of hits. Ahead 0-2 on Marcum, and he misses high. For Mike, it was his first relief outing since a memorable relief appearance April of last year. in the 20-inning game in St. Louis when he picked up a save. You remember the Cardinals were down to using position players on the mound in that game. That's a Joe Pignatano jersey.
How about that?
Joe, longtime Mets bullpen coach. Three and two now to Marcum. Joe Pignatano, whose career I believe ended
as a Met,
hitting into a triple play.
Oh,
I believe that was his last at bat. Here's a 3-2. Too high, ball four, so Pelfrey walks the opposing pitcher after getting ahead of Marcum 0-2. So in the first inning, he retired the first two, only to see Wright's error prolong the inning. Here he retires the first two, and
there's Joe.
The pitcher prolongs the inning, and there is in the flesh Joe Pignatano.
How about that? He's hanging around. Oh, that's part of the clan there, I believe.
See, he wasn't going to wear his own jersey to the ballpark. Here's Corey Hart with a runner aboard, and Hart takes the slider off the plate for ball one. Hart flied to right his first time up. Hart has not put up nearly the numbers he did last year. He had a career season last year, 31 homers, 102 RBIs, hit .283. Began this year on the disabled list with an oblique injury, so it slowed him down early.
It's interesting that he had a career high in a lot of statistics offensively last year, but also he struck out 140 times, which was a career high for him, and way above anything close to what he struck out in a season prior.
Pelfrey behind him 2-0. And falls behind 3-0. So after getting ahead on Marcum 0-2, Pelfrey's missed with 7 pitches in a row. Nigel Morgan waiting on deck. It was September 30th, 1962, Joe Pignatano's last at bat in the 8th inning. And a fly ball that was turned into a triple play.
So some base running blunders.
But that was such a Metsian thing to do. A 62 Metsian thing to do.
Of course, Joe was the bullpen coach at old Shea Stadium and was the guy that tended to all the tomato patch out there.
There were some great tomato plants in that right field bullpen. 3-1 to Corey Hart. And that's a strike, much to Hart's displeasure. Angel Campos, the home plate umpire, calling Hart back.
That's a strike. That nipped a little bit of the outside corner.
So Marcum will run 3-2 and 2 out. And Hart fouls it off. Pignatano's triple play came in the Mets' 120th loss of 1962.
I'd like to see how a fly ball to the outfield turned into a triple play.
Well, I think it was runners at first and second. They were probably running on the pitch. Strike three called. So Hart twice in a row is heading to first base. And both times Angel Campos said strike. And Hart better watch himself or he won't be along for this game. First strikeout for Pelfrey, 1-0 Brewers. View righted. Well, the rains have cleared out. It's a nice looking evening now at Citi Field. After a rain delay that stretched nearly 3 hours, and amazing the drainage these days that there are no puddles anywhere to be seen after all those hours of rain. They take the water from the tarp, dump it in the outfield, and it disappears like magic.
Just like our highways.
Where are you driving these days? Lucas Duda leads off in the home second. Lucas had a good road trip, couple of home runs, one in Phoenix, one in San Diego, and he went over the fence on Wednesday in San Diego, and Kyle Blanks made a great play to pull it back from what would have been an opposite field home run. Lucas now at 280 on the year, and Marcum falls behind him 2-0. Duda's been hitting cleanup these days with this depleted Mets lineup and playing first base, although there's going to be a time, and it could come as early as tomorrow, that he's going to get some more time in the outfield. The figuring is that Ike Davis is going to be healthy next year, and if Duda's going to be on this team and starting, it's going to be in right field.
Yep.
So Terry Collins needs to get him some time out there, and he said tomorrow might be the day.
And if it's going to be right field, and with little nuances and quirks and nooks and crannies out there in the Mo zone, he needs to get familiar with it. It's a very tricky right field. I think the trickiest right field in baseball.
On the inside corner, 3-2. About the only other one that compares is San Francisco.
Yes, San Francisco.
They've got all those archways and different surfaces on the fence there. 3-2 to Duda with Baxter and Pridey to follow, all left-handed hitters against Marcum. And Duda gets one off the fists out to right center field. And Corey Hart comes over to get it, 1 out.
Interesting that Marcum is pitching aggressively inside to left-hand hitters.
You know what's funny about Marcum is we mentioned that he's been so tough on right-hand hitters this year. They're hitting just 182 against them, and lefties more than 90 points higher. Last year it was completely reversed. Last year he got lefties out to a 189 batting average, and the righties hit 299 against him. So been a little different coming over to the National League for some reason. Here's Baxter making his third start for the Mets, and he takes a strike. Mike 4 for 12 since joining the ball club.
Well, he's been getting his share of playing time.
Well, opportunity presents itself on this team right now. And the curveball from Marcum is if you are a young player who is close to being major league ready, there is no better place right now to be than with the Mets, getting yourself a chance. With 39 games to go, including today, that is the main task for this organization, to see what they've got and see what they need. Whether it's a Turner or a Duda or a Bobby Parnell, a Mike Baxter. And the thing is, it's not like there are going to be a ton of call-ups on September 1st. Because most of the players who would have been called up are either hurt or they're already here. Here's the 2-2 from Marcum, and Baxter is down on strikes. Good changeup by Marcum to get him. His first strikeout.
Well, sinker kind of drops out. Got him out in front. That's the circle change. The index finger forms that circle on the inner part of the ball. An interesting rotation on the ball, too, that creates. Nice pitch.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Jason Pridey, who had himself a nice road trip both offensively and defensively, pops the first pitch up. And the third baseman McGee waiting for it. And a 1-2-3 inning for Shaun Marcum in the second. After 2 at Citi Field on a rain delayed night, it's 1-0 Milwaukee. Visit FiatUSA.com to find a studio near you. National TV tomorrow here at Citi Field. We'll be back with you on PIX11 Sunday afternoon. SNY in Philadelphia Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then back to Citi Field Friday night when the Mets take on the Braves. So the Mets are playing 9 straight games against teams that are in postseason position. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Atlanta. So a good proving ground for this Mets team. Nyjer Morgan takes a strike, and it's 0-2. Morgan took a grounded out to second base his first time up. The Brewers, the Phillies, and the Braves all have fairly substantial leads in their division or in the wild card. The closest race in the National League is in the West, and that is status quo tonight for the second straight day. Both the Diamondbacks and Giants lost. Morgan rips a base into the right field, so Nyjer Morgan behind in the count has himself a leadoff single. First time the leadoff man's gotten on against Pelfrey. The Diamondbacks were beaten by the Braves. Derek Lowe 4-2. 3 home runs, Michael Bourne, Brian McCann, and Chipper Jones for Atlanta. And the Giants got shut out by Wandy Rodriguez and the Astros 6-0. That's now a final.
Chipper Jones now a couple home runs in a couple days.
Keith, the Giants just can't score.
And Beltran hurt, not in the lineup.
That's the second straight day they've been shut out. They were shut out by the Braves yesterday, 1-0 behind Mike Minor, and now they go to Houston and get shut out tonight.
It's so hard to repeat. It just just shows you, as good as Atlanta is, and Atlanta's on a way for 90, maybe 95 wins, and Philly, my goodness, they just keep rolling. They've got 81. If they win tonight, they're ahead. It's going to be their 81st win.
There goes Morgan. The pitch upstairs. Toley's throw is high, and Morgan steals the base. His 7th of the year.
Steals it easily here. A great jump. Pelfrey not fast home. Nothing Josh could do.
Now, Pelfrey has just been tattooed by stolen bases this year. That's 23 steals in 25 tries with Pelfrey on the mound this year. The second for the Brewers tonight. So they clearly came into this game thinking about stealing against Pelfrey, and they've been successful twice already. So Morgan in scoring position with nobody out. 1-0 to Braun, who reached on an error and scored the only run of this game.
They are moaning and groaning the Brewers at Campos. I know I've seen Campos behind the plate, and he's a little challenged back there, balls and strikes wise, but the Brew crew is just all over him.
And Braun takes a strike. 1-2. Prince Fielder waiting on deck. Brewers signed Braun to a long-term contract. Basically to be a Brewer for life. Fielder, on the other hand, free agent at the end of the year. And it's going to be fascinating because you're going to have two big slugging first basemen on the market together. As you look at Braun's numbers, you've got Pujols and Fielder, both available to the highest bidder when the year is over.
And all of a sudden, Pujols, who just got off to such a bad start, is leading the National League in home runs with 30.
I mean, a lot of people think it's a foregone conclusion that Pujols is going to stay in St. Louis, but they're going to have to shell out a lot of money to keep him there. Strike 3 call. Braun down looking. And another withering glance for Campos. I don't know. All these pitches that they're complaining about look like strikes, Keith.
He's a low ball umpire, and he's been consistent.
That's it for Braun. So Braun's night has come to an end. Well, Hart almost got himself thrown out of the game in the last inning. And now Braun argued a little too long, and he is ejected.
Well, I read his lips. And it wasn't a real violent argument, but it was the language that was used that got him run.
Not a very happy birthday present for Ron Renicky.
Well, he's got to defend his player, one of his star players.
Well, Renicky stays in the game, but not his star left fielder, who has been run after taking this pitch for a strike.
Borderline knees. Too close to take. But, as I said, Campos has been calling a low strike.
Well, Braun gathers his bats and his equipment and heads for the tunnel. Now Fielder, and he takes inside for ball 1.
It's borderline and too close to take, and I say you got to know your umpires.
Well, he was probably right below his front knee and right at the level of his back knee. So make your own decision. Campos did. Braun objected, and Braun can watch the rest of the game from the clubhouse. Gets him off work about the same time now that he would have been off if the game started on time.
Just crossed my mind.
Fielder drove in the only run of this game with a first inning single. Morgan at second and 1 out. And that misses, and now Pelfrey's behind on fielder 3-0. A very dangerous spot to be.
Yes. You do not want to groove one here.
And they're going to give him intentional ball 4, which is probably the most judicious thing to do. When you are facing this Milwaukee team, there are 2 guys that you just can't let beat you, and that's Braun and Fielder, and Terry Collins knows that. The other guys behind him are competent major league hitters, but not anywhere in the same class. So they'll take their chances with Casey McGee with 2 men on.
And that is the 20th intentional pass to Fielder. It leads the National League.
So here's McGee, who had a soft single to right field his first time up. Casey McGee has 8 home runs this year. Got 3 of them in 1 game a couple of weeks ago against the Cardinals. Rounds one down to third. Nice backhand pick by Wright. Out at third. The throw across in time for the double play. A nifty play by David Wright to start the 5-5-3 double play.
Nice backhand.
Beautifully done by the Mets to keep it a 1-0 game. Tolley hitting a .266 for the year, and he takes ball 1. Marcatze's takeover in left field for the ejected Ryan Braun. And Tolley bluffing bunt takes a strike, and it's 1-1. Tolley, Tejada, and Pelfrey up for the Mets in the bottom of the 3rd. That's got a leadoff hit from Angel Pagan in the 1st. He was caught stealing, and Marcum's retired everybody since. Tolley slaps one to shortstop. Betancourt on the backhand. Off the bag fielder, and he puts the tag on Tolley. 1 away. It wasn't even close to first base.
Well, it's routine with Tolley running. You can take your time, and he just kind of la-di-does it.
One of the reasons why the Brewers have made more infield errors than any team in the league. And you know, when you get to postseason play, that's the kind of thing that can be the difference.
You start playing against the upper echelon teams, you can't make mistakes. You can do it with these second division teams and get away with it a lot, but when it comes down to the big boys in the end, the teams that are there for a reason, and you can't give 4 outs. That's always been a saying in baseball.
Ruben Tejada's been swinging the bat well since his latest call up, playing every day with Reyes out over the 10-game stretch, hitting .324.
Well, it's a lot of errors from your infielders. Particularly, you got 40 games left, approximately.
85 errors overall from Milwaukee. 2 balls and a strike to Tejada. Fielder leading the major leagues in errors by first baseman.
But he's going to drive in around 130 this year, 125, and that's what they need from him.
Tejada takes one the other way. That'll go foul. 2-2. I was talking with Terry Collins today about Tejada and his development, and one of the things that Terry has liked has been Tejada's 2-strike approach, that he's been trying to take the ball up the middle with 2 strikes, something he had gotten away from during the latter stages of his earlier stint with the Mets.
Well, you know, he's an opposite field hitter, so he's the guy that has to hit line drives. He's not a big and strong kid. He's got to do the little things, as we've always said. He's got just a little bit of a long swing. He needs to find a way to really become more compact with his swing.
And there have been times when he has gotten away from the idea of being who he is, tries to muscle up, and he's just not that kind of player. And now a full count to Tejada with Mike Pelfrey on deck. By the way, this game started tonight at 9:56 p.m. It's the latest start for a Mets game since 2007.
Now, is that a home game or any game?
I think that's any game. Up the middle, and exactly what Terry Collins was talking about. Tejada with 2 strikes, taking it back through the middle for a 1-out single.
So nice at bat by Ruben here doesn't swing at any bad breaking balls, and right now Marcum is having a little bit of difficulty getting his breaking stuff over.
So Tejada aboard, and Mike Pelfrey can come up to bunt. The last time a Met game started later was May 16th, 2007. Mets and Cubs at Shea, 10:17 p.m. The Met win, and I know a guy who's one of your personal favorites, Jorge Sosa, started that game for the Mets. Went 7 strong innings.
That's when they were starting Sosa. Yeah, remember that?
It was a pretty good stretch for the Mets as a starter. And then the home runs started to add up.
Well, we noted last time, Gary, if you recall, in Milwaukee, how Fielder does not really charge bunts at all. So we'll see which way it shakes here. If he does try to charge, he's a big guy.
Pelfrey with 3 hits and 2 sacrifices this year. McGee coming hard from third, and Pelfrey lines that bunt foul. And if Fielder had been charging, he would have been able to catch that ball on the fly.
That would have been an F3 in your scorecard.
It would have been a BLF3 on my scorecard. Bunt, line, foul.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's too complicated for me.
Well, we followed you scoring a game earlier this year.
Yes.
You write L for a line drive.
Yeah, right L.
D for bunt. No?
I would not have put a no. That's a good idea. I like that thought.
And Pelfrey fouls off that bunt attempt, and it's 0-2. Well, that's the reason he has only 2 sacrifice bunts this year.
Well, they practice a lot with bunting. Collins is a stickler on fundies. Terry down there, and it's a different thing when the pitcher's out there throwing curveballs, sliders, and change-ups.
Bunted foul at the plate, and that's strike 3. So Pelfrey is a strikeout victim, unable to move the runner. Second strikeout for Marcum. Well, that's an interesting question, because Terry was talking about that the other day, about how it's different when you're in the game and pitchers throwing. So why wouldn't you have your pitchers every once in a while take bunting practice against a live pitcher?
Well, you got to save your arms in the course of the season, and you maybe have your coaches or your BP pitchers throw breaking balls. To me, the very few times I had to bunt in my career, I was terrified to bunt a breaking ball, because I just sped things up because I wasn't an accomplished bunter. Now, a guy like Bud Harrelson, that would have been a piece of cake. Buddy would have told you a breaking ball was easier to pitch the bunt because Buddy slowed it down.
Pagan had a base hit to right field his first time up, then was caught stealing. Batting with Tejada at first and 2 out. Mets down a run in the third. And a fastball strike from Marcum, 1-1.
Well, 86-mile-an-hour fastball. That's not much on it. I got to believe he's throwing a little harder than that.
Willie Harris on deck. By the way, you had 10 career sacrifice bunts.
I did. That must have been when I stunk.
Early in your career, when you were young.
When Red made me bunt. I did Shandy's, of course.
Davey never made you bunt, did he?
No. Whitey did once.
There's a good fastball from Marcum, and it's 1-2. Tejada, not a whole lot of speed at first. And Pagan floats one foul.
Very quick home is Marcum. He just gets rid of the ball in a hurry.
Again, the 1-2 to Pagan, and the curveball bounced down to first, comes up on fielder, and somehow he corrals it against his body to end the inning. The ball took a funny hop on Prince, but he stays with it, uses that big body to just shove it into the uniform, and he hangs on for the out. Delay here at Citi Field. By the way, Mets management has been gracious enough to allow all ticket holders for tonight's game, whether they came to the game or not, to use their ticket to trade in for a freebie. Hit down to third, and another nice play by David Wright. He throws out Betancourt. So that's 2 good ones in a row for David. This one coming right up in his midsection.
Well, David, if he wanted to get out of the way of this ball and do a backhand, couldn't have. It was hit with a bullet hit right at him, playing in. That is the hot corner. Nice play.
Anyway, you can trade in your ticket for tonight's game, whether you came or not, for a game against the Nationals, September 12th through the 15th. But even with that gesture, I'm shocked at how many people sat through a 3-hour rain delay and hung out. It's a nice gathering. Here's Jonathan Lucroy, who flied out to left his first time up. And he takes a fastball from Pelfrey for a strike. Mike looking for his first clean inning of the night. Gave up an unearned run in the first inning. Walked the pitcher with 2 out in the second. Gave up a leadoff hit to Morgan in the third. Helped out by Wright's spectacular double play to end the third. And there's a nice looking slider for a strike, and it's 0-2. Red Sox and Yankees both won tonight. Boston beat Kansas City 7-1. Jared Saltalamacchia had a big 3-run homer. Russell Martin hit 2 homers for the Yankees. They beat the Twins 8-1. So the Yankees stay a half game up on Boston. Now the 1-2 to Lucroy, and a little bouncer for Willie Harris. Gets a nice easy hop to work with, and quickly there are 2 out. Weekdays this fall at 4, Anderson Cooper comes to PIX11 with his fresh new take on talk, followed by the all-new PIX11 news at 5, starting September 12th on PIX11. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Craig Counsell. The most important game in the American League today was Detroit and Cleveland. The Tigers beat the Indians 4-1 behind Max Scherzer, and they now lead by 2.5 over Cleveland in the AL Central. That was the closest race of meaning in baseball going into the day, and by that I mean not the Red Sox Yankees, where both teams are pretty much guaranteed a route into the postseason. The ball and a strike to Counsell. Counsell grounded out to first base his first time up. And he smacks one toward the gap in right center. A base hit for Counsell. Over comes Baxter to cut it off, and he'll hold Counsell to a single. So Craig Counsell, who had an 0 for 45 streak earlier this year, has himself a 2-out hit.
Well, he rolls over the lineup here with that base hit. Gets the pitcher up.
Fourth hit off Mike Pelfrey, so Shaun Marcum, who walked his first time up, will come to bat. Marcum has a home run this year among his 7 hits. The only home run of his major league career, as he cues one, and it stays on the grass foul. Dude was going to wait as long as he could to see if it would curl back fair. Sometimes you hit that ball right off the end of the bat. It's got enough spin, it can come back into fair territory.
And it rolls off the lip of the cut on the grass. You're right, it can roll back in.
And Marcum takes a fastball for a strike, and it's 0-2. As Marcum played in the American League until this year, coming over from Toronto. There's Corey Hart on deck.
Had Tommy John surgery a couple years ago. Had a bounce back year 2 years ago. Won 13 games with Toronto before coming over to the Brew Crew.
Strike 3 called, so Pelfrey rings up Marcum on 3 pitches. It's his 3rd strikeout, and it stays 1-0 Milwaukee. Mets will come to bat in the bottom of the 4th inning, trailing 1-0. Willie Harris, David Wright, and Lucas Duda will try and break through against Shaun Marcum, who's held the Mets to 2 singles over the first 3 innings. Marcum, 29 years old, 3rd round pick by Toronto back in '03, came out of Southwest Missouri State after beginning his college career at the University of Missouri. Grew up in that part of the world.
I believe he was born in Kansas City,
where everything's up to date. Willie Harris hit a broken bat pop up to second base his first time up. Ball and a strike to Harris. And there's the curveball from Marcum for a strike, 1-2. You know, we've talked a lot about the Brewers pitching tonight and the fact that they have had such a great run of things. And, you know, you look at their overall numbers, and the Brewers are 7th in the league in staff ERA, which is pretty good. Harris dribbles one, and Marcum will take it himself for the first out. But what's really characterized them is their strikeout to walk ratio. They have the 2nd fewest walks and the 3rd most strikeouts of any staff in the league. And you look at that rotation, and Narveson is the 5th guy, and he's hurt right now. But the other 4 guys have all been very, very solid.
Well, the 4 guys in double digits. No, Wolf's been around a long time. He's also a Met killer. Just hate to bring that up. And Zach Greinke, after coming off the injury, missing a little bit earlier, he's been terrific. So, hey, you know what? It's always been about the pitching, Gary.
David Wright takes a curveball off the plate. David flied to center his first time up.
We got out of the way of that steroid era where everything was focused on home runs. Notice in the paper Mike Jacobs got caught with a little HGH and suspended for 50 games. Former Met.
Well, that's a very significant development. Jacobs getting caught testing positive for HGH, which is tested for with a blood test in the minor leagues, and it's the first professional athlete in North America to actually fail a test for HGH, and it's a major development because it means that you proves to some people that there's a viability to that test and that it might someday be used in the majors. Wright rips one foul, 2-2. Up until now, there's been a lot of doubts about the efficacy of that test.
Right.
And even now, you know, Jacobs admitted that he did use HGH, and they say that the test is only effective if you catch the guy within 48 hours of actually using it, which means that you have to have surprise testing for it to be effective at all.
So do you want to take a chance on being 86th for 50 games without pay? Big risk.
Well, 50 games the first time, 100 games the second time. That's the way the rules are written now.
Yep.
3-2 to David Wright, and it's outside on low ball 4, and the Mets have a 1-out base runner. First walk given up by Marcum, who's averaged about 2.5 walks per 9 innings this year. But, you know, for all the self-accolades that baseball has given itself for its drug testing program, that's the one big hole, is that there is no test for HGH, and there's no telling if or how many major league players continue to use it. And it's great that they have the testing in the minor leagues, and that's what felled Jacobs. And I thought it was also interesting that the Rockies, who employed Jacobs, released him as soon as it was announced that he failed the test. So he'll serve that suspension only if somebody else picks him up. Lucas Duda flied to right his first time up.
Well, that would be wonderful that there would be a no tolerance coming from ownership. But certainly a minor leaguer does not have any chips on his side. If it's a star player, it's not happening where they're going to release him. Ouch.
And that one catches Lucroy right in the mask. 0-2.
Thought I got him right below. Let's see. Oh, we got him in the mask.
Never fun.
Quickest way to the big leagues, but boy, oh boy, a lot of aches and pains being a catcher. Planes have resumed taking off at LaGuardia, Gary, so the weather has cleared out of the metropolitan area.
Is that a promise? Doodle lays off the changeup and it's 1-2.
It's moving east.
Due east or northeast?
We'll find out. You're pulling it up right now. Your trusty weather map.
The weather map was pretty crowded earlier tonight.
It's pretty ugly. Yeah, it's around Mid-Island right now.
Here's the 1-2, and Duda gets tied up and fouls it off.
Looks like it's going northeast toward Boston.
But everything's very clear now where we are.
Yep, there's nothing behind it. We're good.
It's like it's smooth sailing.
We're banked
right through 1 in the morning or whenever this game happens to come to a conclusion.
Looks like it's going to get the North Fork out there on the eastern Long Island and miss the South Fork.
Your tomatoes need water, don't they? Here's the 1-2, and the curveball popped up into left center field. Nigel Morgan is in to grab it for the second out. A very slow curve from Marcum that time. Had Dude out on his front foot. So 2 away. Wright still at first, and now Mike Baxter, who struck out in his first at bat. The Mets are trying to break a very odd streak that has plagued them this year. This is the Mets' 10th homestand of the year. They have lost the first game of each of their first 9 homestands. It's almost incomprehensible.
Yes.
The only 2 teams in Major League history who have lost their first game of their first 9 homestands of the year besides the Mets, the 1913 Cincinnati Reds and the 1987 Chicago White Sox.
You would think the Cubs would be in there somewhere, coming off a road trip where they play the old Cubs before they had the lights, playing 10 days on the road, playing night games and having to come home on an off day and play a day game.
Yeah, but those things are no better for the visitors than they are for the Cubs. It's just a quirky thing, and the Mets' overall home record is not particularly good, but if you take out the homestand openers that they've lost all 9 of, then they'd actually have a winning record at home. They'd be 25-23 without those homestand openers. Jam job off the third base side, and there is McGee to put it away. So Baxter had Marcum get right in his kitchen. Marcum has 4 scoreless and a 1-0 lead. Mike Pelfrey's allowed just an unearned run tonight. That's enough for the Brewers to lead 1-0. Top of the batting order, Corey Hart leads off in the 5th. Hart, Morgan, and Kotsay, the 3 hitters due for Milwaukee. And Hart first pitch swinging, bloops one down the right field side, and that'll fall for a base hit. Hart on his way to second as Baxter digs it out, and Hart slides in safely with a bloop double. 14th double of the year for Hart.
Well, not much you can do here. It's a hanger. And that's what gets Mike in so much trouble, even though that's a very fortunate double. But doesn't have consistency with his breaking stuff.
That's the first extra base hit for either side, and now Nyjer Morgan, who singled and stole a base in the third inning, 1 for 2. And the Mets have to play in at the corners. Morgan is always a threat to bunt, and he pulls one foul. Well, baseball is only Morgan's second love. His first was, well, it involved skates. That's Nyjer Morgan about 12 years ago, skating for the Regina Pats of the Western Hockey League. Grew up in California, watched the '88 Olympics on TV when he was 7 years old, and asked his dad if he could play hockey, and wound up playing major junior hockey in Canada before starting his baseball career. He looked pretty good on skates.
Not to be confused with Lonnie Smith.
No, he was just skates. He didn't need the blades. Those are his junior hockey totals. 10 games, 2 goals, 35 penalty minutes. Spent a lot of time in the box. Drops down the bunt. Pelfrey's going to go first with it. That'll go as a sacrifice for Morgan, 1-4. Moving Hart to third.
And it would have been Braun up here. Nice bunt, number 1, but it would have been Ryan Braun coming up right now. But he's been ejected, and it's going to be Mark Kotsay.
So the sacrifice for Morgan, the equivalent of forechecking. Anything to help produce a score, even if it's not your own. So here's the veteran Kotsay.
Mets bring the infield in.
And the curveball from Pelfrey misses for ball 1.
Watch Morgan get down and get this breaking ball. Look at him bend at the knees.
Well, you don't see a lot of that these days, do you?
No.
Good technique. Getting Hart over to third base with that bunt. Infield in for Kotsay. And he takes it off the plate, 2-0.
Well, Mike's in a rock and a hard spot here because he's got the big guy right there, Bignandek's circle, 2 lefties back to back.
Well, this is the guy you got to go after. Kotsay is a nice player, but he's no Prince Fielder. Now 35 years old. And Pelfrey's now behind him, 3-0. Mike has walked 2. One of those was intentional. That was Fielder in the third. If you could get Kotsay, then you could walk Fielder and go after McGee, which is what he did the last time through, and that worked out for him. Kotsay began his big league career in '97 with the Marlins. And a 4-pitch walk. Well, that's not the guy you wanted to pitch around. It sets up the double play possibility, but it brings up an MVP candidate in Prince Fielder. Fielder is driven in the only run of this game with a single to center in the first, then drew that intentional pass in the third. So the Brewers with a chance to add to their 1-0 lead here in the 5th. Fielder's RBI was his 91st of the year. There's Dan Warthen hoping that Pelfrey can get a double play ball. He's already gotten 1 tonight. Fielder's second in the league behind Ryan Howard in RBIs. Howard started the day with 95. Infield at double play depth for Fielder. And he hits it sharply through the hole, a base hit. That'll bring home Hart. And it's 2-0 Milwaukee. Second RBI single of the night for Prince Fielder. 2-0 Brewers.
That is just very smart hitting, and that's why that man has 92 RBIs for the season. You can just bet the house that Pelfrey's going to run a sinker and try to get him to roll over. And he's not looking to hit a 3-run homer here, Gary. He's looking to put another run on the board and advance the rally. That's just good hitting. Whatever that was, the double spotlight.
It takes a lot of wattage, doesn't it? So now Casey McGee takes high. McGee singled to right in the first and then hit a hot shot to third, and David Wright made a nice backhand stop and turned it into a double play to end the third. Pelfrey could use another one of those right here. Little flare into center field, and that's a base hit. Kotsay around third and heading home. He'll score without a throw. Casey McGee with an RBI single, and it's 3-0 Milwaukee. So that 4-pitch walk to Kotsay is just looking enormous right now in the context of this inning.
He gets the fastball inside and jams him, but you see there's no sink. It stays flat. So it's going to get in on the hands of a hitter, but he's going to be able to muscle it out. Now, if he gets that ball down and it sinks, it gets under the bat, you can get a double play. And the sacrifice is looming large, too, by Morgan.
3 hits in the inning off Pelfrey. 2 runs are in, and it's 3-0 Milwaukee. Now Yuniesky Betancourt, who's 0 for 2, hit a hot shot to third, and David Wright threw him out his last time up.
Well, this is usually around the middle of the ball game when Pelfrey has a rough inning, you know. 5th or 6th inning. They touch him up.
Hit hard and passed right down the line, and Betancourt has an extra base hit. That'll score Fielder. McGee goes to third. He stops there. And in at second with an RBI double is Betancourt. It's 4-0 Milwaukee. So 3 straight hits for the Brewers after the walk to Kotsay. And the Brewers have put 3 runs on the board here in the 5th.
Right down the line, ripped, and I don't know what Pridey was thinking throwing into second base. That's an automatic stand-up double. And all your infielders are set up for the throw into third base.
Still only 1 out in the inning. 3 runs have scored, and 2 are in scoring position. Jonathan Lucroy, the batter. And the Mets are going to bring the infield in. McGee now at third and Betancourt at second. Now, Pelfrey walked Kotsay on 4 pitches. He's thrown 4 pitches since then and given up 3 hits. Now Lucroy first pitch swinging, and he pops it up.
Oh boy.
Totally hoping for a play, and he has room to grab it. 2 out. There's a big out for Pelfrey. So the Brewers being very aggressive. And it costs Lucroy the 2nd out. Well, counsel the batter, and we'll see if they pitch to him or walk him and go after the pitcher.
I got to believe they're going to walk him and go after the pitcher. It's interesting how they hit some pretty tough pitches off Pelfrey in this inning, and that one right there was a hanger right on the tee to rip. And Lucroy pops it up.
So they're going to intentionally walk Counsell, a 156 hitter, who had a base hit his last time up. This will be the 2nd intentional walk and the 4th overall for Pelfrey, and Marcum will be the 9th man up in the inning. He'll bat with the bases loaded. Well, another day when a Mets starting pitcher just has not been great. Mets got a very good start out of Dylan G on Wednesday, the first time in 37 games that a Met starter had allowed less than 2 runs as DJ Carrasco gets up. But basically, for the last several months, Mets starting pitching day after day has given up enough runs that it's made it difficult on the offense. Every once in a while, you need for your starting pitching to give you a shutdown effort, and there just hasn't been much of that on this staff. And it's something that the Mets really need to think about heading toward next year, because you know the top of the rotation type pitchers in the Mets farm system are still a few years away.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what the brain trust here, Sandy Alderson and crew, do in the offseason, the changes that they make.
And Pelfrey is a very interesting case, because you know Mike was miscast this year as a #1 starter, and you know while he's a good major league pitcher, he's not a #1 guy, and he's going to be arbitration eligible this winter. He's going to make a lot of money, and the Mets need to decide: is this a guy that you go forward with, or is it somebody that you seek to trade or even non-tender? And the last 6 weeks of this season are going to go a long way toward helping Sandy Alderson decide what to do.
I just don't see how going to arbitration. If Mike loses this game, you're 6-10. that's going to command a big salary.
But you know how arbitration works. It's more about the numbers of years you've been in the game necessarily than the numbers you put up. 85 pitches now for Pelfrey. I mean, they're in the same situation with Angel Pagan, a guy who's an arbitration eligible player. And they have to decide how best to allocate their resources for next year. And this is why these games are of utmost importance to almost every player on this roster, to show exactly what their value is going forward. Marcum tries to hold. He went around, strike 3, and the inning comes to an end. But 9 men came to bat for the Brewers in the 5th. They scored 3 times halfway through, 4-0 Milwaukee. Event, the Cubs got a 10th inning RBI single from Tyler Colvin to beat the Cardinals this afternoon. The Cardinals now 7 games behind Milwaukee. Wandy Rodriguez 8 scoreless for the Astros. The Giants are shut out for the 2nd straight day. The Braves get 3 home runs and beat the Diamondbacks 4-2. Reds and Pirates tied 8-8. That game's now in the 9th at PNC Park. Roy Oswalt was supposed to start, but after the rain delay in Washington, Kyle Kendrick got the start instead, and he's doing just fine against the Nationals. Dodgers up big on the Rockies. Another good game for Barajas, who homered yesterday as well. And the Padres have the early lead on Florida. Kyle Blanks with a home run for San Diego. Jason Pridey leads off for the Mets in the bottom of the 5th, now down 4-0. Pridey popped up to 3rd his first time up and takes a strike. It'll be Pridey, Tolle, and Tejada as the Mets try and battle back against Shaun Marcum, who's now pitched 10 innings against the Mets this year and allowed no runs and 4 hits in those 10 innings. The ball and a strike to Pridey. Pridey's been getting a lot of playing time lately. Started 4 of the 6 games on the road trip and getting the start in left field tonight. Jason Bay getting the night off tonight. Bay is in another one of those long 0-fers. He's 0 for his last 20. Terry Collins said before the game tonight that he had talked to Bay during the road trip about giving him a day off on Wednesday so he'd have 2 days off in a row. And Jason said he wanted to play in San Diego and that he'd rather have the day off tonight. So that's why he's sitting. Should be back in there tomorrow. 2-2 to Pridey, and a high fly ball hit to right. Corey Hart settling under it. 1 away.
I always believed in the 48-hour off day where you only miss 1 game. You know, sometimes I think a manager's got to take charge and just say, you know, I know you want to play, but I'm going to sit you down. That extra day, it works wonders sometimes. You get that, you come to the ballpark, you can watch. You don't have the grind of that playing that day, and then the next day is an off day away from the park. Rejuvenation.
Well, in Bay's case, you know, you're almost tempted to throw up your hands at this point. He's had so many of these
all the more reason
stretches.
All the more reason to give him 48 hours off.
Tolle bounced to short his first time up, and he takes the curveball outside. I mean, Jason had an 0 for 24 earlier this year. He has an 0 for 20 now. He had never had an 0 for that long in any season in his career before this year. And that comes on the heels of an 11-game hitting streak. As Tolle pops one in foul ground near that low fence, it'll go out of play.
Well, I'm beginning to feel, Gary, that maybe this park is too big for him. And we're talking about a guy that hit 30 home runs, you know, more than a few times in his career. And did this part of Carrasco still getting it up, heating up? You know, if there's a base hit here, Pelfrey will be pinched hit for. There's no question about that. But getting back to the size of the park, this park might be too big. I mean, Busch Stadium, we had a lot of guys there. An old Busch Stadium, Gary. Strike 3 for Tolle on the outside corner. He doesn't think so.
Third strikeout for Marcum. 2 out.
Jerry Morales comes to my mind. Hector Cruz, Sixto Lezcano. outfielders that came over to St. Louis and Old Busch Stadium, where it was 386 in the gaps, and the ballpark was just too big for him. And the fly balls and Jerry Morales came from Wrigley Field. He had some great years there. He didn't do anything for us. Sixto Lezcano came over from Milwaukee, a small ballpark. The bark was too big for him. Hector Cruz had great power numbers in the minor leagues, was minor league player of the year 2 years in a row in AA and AAA, and the park was too big for him.
So the question is, in Jason Bay's case, what do you do? I mean, it's not as though you can trade him. As Tejada hits another one up the middle, so he's 2 for 2. Tejada continues to provide a bright spot. And the Mets will send up Nick Evans to pinch hit for Pelfrey. I mean, Bay's got 2 more years on his contract for enormous money. And it provides a real quandary for this organization right now, because what do you do? I mean, other than run him out there every day for the rest of this year and the next 2 years and hope that he finds his way out of the morass.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are not untouchable on this ball club. I mean, we can sit up here and we can talk about till the cows come home, and then only one guy's going to make the decision. But I have a hunch that there's a lot of people here that may not be back.
Well, that may be the case, but in Bay's case, you're talking about a guy who's owed $30+ million for the next 2 years. I mean, you're not gonna, I don't think they're going to just release him. I can't see that happening.
I'm not talking about releasing anybody.
He's certainly not tradable at that price. Grounded down to third, and McGee gets the force to end the inning. We'll talk more about that when we come back from break. Fifth inning brought to you by Ford. Check out the best-selling vehicles with the best-selling values in America. 4-0 Milwaukee as we head to the 6th at Citi Field. Lead. DJ Carrasco comes on in relief for New York.
Well, Carrasco's had a tough year there, and it's reflective on his ERA, hits per innings pitched. Doesn't walk people. He's been really hurt with long ball. I think.
Kevin Burkhardt is on assignment this weekend. Eamon McEnany filling in. Let's check in with Eamon.
Well, thanks, Gary. I just had a follow-up for Keith with the discussion about Jason Bay last inning and some of his former teammates with the Cardinals, who he said Busch Stadium was just too big for them. I understand that for the home run total, but Keith, how does that relate to these long, prolonged slumps for Bay? Obviously, this last one on the road, but how does the size of the park then? Is it in his head, and that carries over for these lengthy slumps?
Well, when you're in big ballparks, Eamon, there's no margin for error. Fly balls are outs, and you had to be this ballpark is made for line drive hitters, as Busch Stadium was. And I'm not talking in the past here.
Corey Hard lines it to left and right at Friday for the first out.
It's big ballparks are big ballparks, so you have to maybe tailor your club after speed and defense for sure, particularly in your outfield. And in Busch Stadium, Eamon, if I got under a ball a little bit, it was just a fly ball. Where maybe in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or Wrigley Field, it's a home run. Not all the time, but every time you get under a ball in the big ballparks, it's a fly ball. You got to hit it on the screws to hit it out. And this ballpark right here, you've got to hit it. This is a big, big park.
So I guess the question, as Morgan hits one toward left center field, this one's going to find the gap and roll back to the wall. Morgan cruises to second base, and he'll stop there with a one-out double. So the first two hitters hitting it hard against DJ Carrasco. Morgan's second hit of the game.
Well, sinker ball, backdoor slider. Came right down the pipe.
So I guess the question is, to follow up on what Eamon was asking, if you're Jason Bay and the ballpark is costing you home runs because every ball that you elevate is staying in the ballpark, does that lead to bad habits that also take away base hits?
Well, you also got to remember that Bay is someone that has hit home runs throughout his career, and now all of a sudden he's in a ballpark where that's not happening. And I think a lot of the hitters today, because of the 90s and the early 2000s and the smaller ballparks, I think they're home run happy. I really do. also adjust to, you got to adjust to the ballpark. You just can't keep beating your head against a brick wall. I mean, Reyes figured out this ballpark this year when he was healthy. This ballpark's tailor-made for Jose. Beltran, as you remember last year, figured out the ballpark. He was off to the hot start before he got hurt. This is a guy, a line drive hitter's haven.
Oh, and 2 to Marcatze, who took over for Brian Braun when he was ejected after a called third strike in the third.
I mean, there were times when I played, Gary, in Busch Stadium where I'd get angry, I'd get under a ball. It's a long year. You know, you can't be on top and hit the ball squarely every time up. And there'd be times you'd get frustrated where you'd hit a ball and it'd be under it a little bit. It's a fly ball. Or another park, you know, it's a home run. And I remember telling myself, gosh, if I played in Philadelphia, if I played in Pittsburgh, Three Rivers, Old Veteran Stadium, or Atlanta, you know, I'd hit 15, 20 home runs a year. But you know what? I had 81 games at Busch Stadium. So I really focused on line drives in my batting practice. And concentrated and just really had the fight focus centered on hitting line drives. And nothing to do with AstroTurf.
Now, what we've seen a lot of with Bay this year, we've seen, well, he's always been a guy who struck out a lot, even in his best years, but we've also seen a lot of ground balls this year.
He hasn't been able to lift the ball. And I think it's gotten to a point now where it's in so much in his head. I mean, come on, if it got to a point where a year and a half I was hitting like that, I'd begin to doubt myself. I would begin to have doubts, you know, if I got it anymore. What's wrong? I mean, that's a long time. We all go into slumps.
Kotze hooks one to right, and Baxter is there. Morgan fakes the go from second and holds on, and that's the second out. So ultimately, it comes down to confidence. That you know, if you're, no matter who you are, if you go long enough without success, it tends to feed on itself.
Yes, no question. I mean, there are human beings out there with their frailties, and I don't care who you are. It was Ted Williams. If you're having a year and a half where you're hitting like Jason's hitting, or it's going to wear at you, and you're going to begin to doubt yourself.
Here's Prince Fielder, who's driven in 2 runs with a pair of base hits, and the Mets aren't going to mess with him this time. With first base open, they'll walk him intentionally for the second time in the game, and Casey McGee will bat instead. So I'll get back to the original premise of the conversation, which is that as the Mets look toward the future, and Jason Bay with $30+ million left to go and 2 more years on his contract, what can they do other than just run him out there every day and hope things change?
Oh, the money's the issue. The money comes.
Of course it is.
It's, you know.
I mean, the Mets ate a big number this spring when they released Oliver Perez, and they ate a somewhat smaller number this spring when they released Luis Castillo. But I think it would be unprecedented for this franchise to release the amount of money left on Bay's contract.
No, they would never release Jason. And like I said, you run. I would, if I was a general manager, I'd run feelers out on every one of my players and see what general managers are interested in, what, and see what you can get. See what comes back. I know money's an issue with him, and that's going to be tough.
Casey McGee takes a breaking ball for a strike. McGee 2 for 3, drove in a run with a 5th inning single. I mean, if you were going to try to trade Jason, you would have to pay virtually all of his salary or take back a similar salary in exchange.
Yep.
Nothing in 2 to McGee. We'll chase that slider, and it's 1-2. Mike Pelfrey threw 86 pitches over 5 innings, allowed 4 runs, 3 of them earned, 8 hits, 4 walks, 2 intentional, 4 strikeouts. And on the hook for his 10th loss against 6 wins this year, unless the Mets can rally for him. And Josh Tolley will pay a visit to Carrasco, who is sporting not only the stirrups tonight, but the stirrups with the orange and Y on them. Did you see that?
I noticed.
I don't think. Have we seen these before?
No. I've seen them on Carrasco, but no one else. You like it? Not particularly.
No. I mean, I love the orange and Y because, you know, it's like the song says, fans are true to the orange and blue.
That's true.
But I'm partial to stripes on socks, not logos.
I like stripes too.
Two and two to McGee. And the breaking ball down. I don't know if you saw the report earlier this week, but it appears as though the Mets are going to be working that. Remember the blue jersey they wore for Fiesta Latina?
Yeah.
They're going to be working that blue jersey into the rotation next year.
Okay. Oh,
which is nice.
Maybe they
more blue.
More blue and less of the black.
Perhaps. 3-2. The runners get set to take off. And it's hit sharply up the middle for a base hit. That'll bring home Morgan. Fielder racing for third. Casey McGee with his third hit of the game and his second RBI. And the Brewers keep pulling away. It's 5-0.
Hanging slider right here. He had just not up in the strike zone. There's this finger on the side of the ball. You see the backdoor circle behind the backside of the ball. That just didn't do much up in the strike zone. Runners running, automatic ribeye steak.
So McGee now with 55 RBIs, and here's Betancourt, who doubled in a run his last time up. He's 1 for 3. The Brewers now with 10 hits and a 5-0 lead. So the Mets record of futility in homestand openers appears to be continuing tonight. Later hour, same general results. Now, we mentioned that the Mets had become only the third team in history to lose their first 9 homestand openers. The Mets actually once lost 10 consecutive homestand openers, but not from the start of the season. That was in 1979 when they lost the first game of each of their last 10 homestands at Shea, and that is a major league record that they, in dubious fashion, could tie tonight.
That was the Mets of the Dave Kingman era, right?
Yeah, 79. Not a particularly solid year in Mets history.
Frankie Tavares playing shortstop.
Bruce Beauclair.
Well, El Stinkowski's.
Joel Youngblood.
Doug Flynn playing second base then.
Yeah, that was a bright spot.
Henderson was in left, I believe. Was Mookie up in 79 yet?
I don't. If he was, it was only at the end of the year, I think.
Ellis Valentine.
Yeah, John Stearns behind the plate. Willie Montañez at first.
Oh gosh, Willie.
Doug Flynn and Frankie Tavares up the middle. Frankie stole 42 bases that year. But that was also the year of Richie Hebner.
Richie didn't like playing in New York.
No, he sure didn't. And we didn't like watching him either. He was a great player before he got to the Mets, but not while he was in New York. Your outfield that year was Steve Henderson, Lee Mazzilli, and Joel Youngblood. Greg Swan was your #1 starter. Pete Falcone, Kevin Coble.
Oh yeah.
Doc Ellis. 2-1 to Betancourt, and it bounces away from Tolley, and that'll bring in Fielder with the second run of the inning.
That's going to be a wild pitch.
Six to nothing Milwaukee.
It's going to be a breaking ball in the dirt.
And another ball that he does not block properly.
That is a backhand. He has gotten into a bad habit. He did it in Milwaukee. Cost a run for Capuano.
In Arizona, yeah. In Capuano's last start. McGee at second with 2 out. 6-0 Milwaukee. 3-1 the count to Betancourt, and he swings and fouls one off. And when we talk about the Mets going forward and, you know, everybody having to prove themselves, Josh Toley's part of that too. I mean, the defense has just not come around for Josh and may even have gone backwards this year. And it's an area where the Mets have got to figure out whether he's an answer going forward or whether they have to look in another direction. A lot of questions for this team heading down the stretch and into the offseason. Bouncing ball near the bag at third, barehanded by Wright, and the low throw scooped out nicely by Duda. Side retired. Well, David made an error in the first inning, but he's made 3 terrific plays since then. This one with the bare hand, and handles it very well. Top of the batting order, Angel Pagan leads off against Shaun Marcum, who's working on a 3-hit shutout. Pagan has one of those 3 hits. He's single leading off the first inning, was promptly caught stealing. He's 1 for 2 on the night, and he takes a strike. So Marcum has now thrown 11 innings against the Mets and allowed no runs and 5 hits in his 2 starts. Willie Harris and David Wright to follow. Marcum coming over from the Blue Jays is a trade that looks like it might help both teams. The Brewers sent a young infielder, Brett Lawrie, over to Toronto. Lawrie got called up about 2 weeks ago and has been performing very well for the Blue Jays. Pulled over the bag. That's a fair ball. Hitting off the sidewall. Pagan heads for second as Hart plays the carom. And Pagan is in with the Mets' first extra base hit of the night.
Just over the bag on a changeup. And just got it too much over the middle. Pagan able to get enough barrel of the bat on the ball. Stays back with his hands. Let's go with one hand.
17th double of the year for Pagan. His second hit of the night, and the first time the Mets have had a runner as far as second base in this game. Now Willie Harris, who's popped up and grounded out to the pitcher, 0 for 2. So the Mets with a chance to finally scratch against Shaun Marcum. Marcum at 80 pitches for the night as he works in the 6th. And the curveball misses high for ball 1. David Wright waiting on deck. Tapper to the right side, and Counsell makes the play on Harris. Pagan moves over to third. So the Mets get a runner to third base for the first time. 1 out in the inning. Don't let your summer fun get washed out by wicked weather. Stay out of trouble with Mr. G's forecast. Tonight after the game on the PIX11 News at 10. Afraid the PIX11 News at 10 might be a little later than 10 tonight.
Full overtime.
2-hour and 46-minute rain delay at the start, putting a crimp in the scheduling of the evening. David Wright has flied to center and drawn a walk. 0 for 1. The infield back for the Brewers, happy to concede a run to get the second out. And David pulls one down to third, and Pagan will hold, and McGee throws out Wright 2 away. So Pagan not going on contact, down by 6 runs.
You got a run in that, don't you? They're playing back. They're not going to concede the run.
Certainly looked that way.
Wow.
So it's left to Lucas Duda. I love that he has Hendrix as his walk-up music.
Oh yeah, that's a Bob Dylan song.
Right, but it's the Hendrix guitar.
There's a new book out on Bob Dylan. It has every song all the lyrics of every song he's written.
Really?
Yes, it's very, very good.
Very thick book.
Yes, it is.
Small print.
It's right on my coffee table in my living room.
It's a coffee table book.
Yeah, it's all the lyrics. It's excellent.
But it's not a coffee table book that turns into a coffee table.
No.
2-0 to Duda, who's flied to right and flied to left. 0 for 2. Now, do you flip through that book and check out the lyrics of some of the songs that you were a little confused about? What Zimmy was actually talking about?
I haven't. I've had to reorganize my house a little bit this summer, Gare, and I just recently got a new coffee table. I went without for a long time. So now I have one, and I have a big James Bond book there of all the Bond characters. I have a Sherlock Holmes, all the movie characters that played Sherlock Holmes over the years. I'm sure fans are very excited about that.
So when you entertain in your house, basically you don't have to have a conversation. People can just read your coffee table.
Right. It's like, yes, absolutely.
3-1 to Duda, and he pulls one foul.
And I have baseball books, of course, spread around my.
How many books do you have on your
I have
coffee
2
table?
stacks, but not real tall. But they're large books you put on the coffee table. So
Are they on top of the coffee table, or is it
on
lower
top?
level?
On top.
But
I have a very
coffee tables have that lower level you can put books on.
I have an 11 by 10 L-shaped sofa, so I have a 51 by 50 coffee table. It's quite large.
Wow.
Yes.
How big's your TV? Back at Marcum, he knocks it down and makes the play on Duda to end the inning. We'll get more on the specs of Keith's living room when we come back. Leadoff double by Pagan. He is stranded after 6-0 Brewers. Costs more without free score. DJ Carrasco begins his second inning of work. Gave up a couple of runs in the 6th. Now the lower third of the Brewers order in the 7th. Jonathan Lucroy leads off. Lucroy, the only starter for the Brewers tonight who has not reached base. He's gone 0 for 3, and he takes a strike. The Brewers have survived the ejection of one of their MVP candidates. Ryan Braun was run by home plate umpire Angel Campos after arguing a 3rd strike call in the 3rd inning. 0-2 to Lucroy. And Shaun Marcum has thrown 6 scoreless innings, same as he did against the Mets the first time he faced them back in June. Out to center field, and Pagan ranging over and makes the grab, 1 away. Keith, is this about as difficult a time for a player to concentrate? Long rain delay. It's almost midnight. The team's behind, 7th inning. Is this as bad as it gets in terms of just keeping your concentration on the game?
For a veteran, established veteran, yes. Not for a young man that's trying to make an impression and establish himself. For a veteran, yes. It would be far worse if it was 100 degrees and the humidity around 90, and you're playing a game like this. Then it's much more difficult at night, at least, even though it's late. You know, those day games in August in Atlanta, St. Louis, Cincinnati, they can wear on you.
Did you have tricks that you played with yourself to try and keep your focus?
No, it just is always pride in performance. And I remember I was fortunate enough in my career where the first half of my career I played for teams that were out of it. So I never had a real taste. The second half of my career, I was always in contention. I think the worst thing would be to be someone that was thrown into postseason pennant contention every year in the beginning, and all of a sudden your team turns into an also-ran your second half of your career. Then it would be tough for a veteran.
Line pass Carrasco and into center field. So Counsell, 2 days short of his 41st birthday, has a couple of hits tonight. Far from his 0 for 45 stretch. And Shaun Marcum will get his 4th turn at bat. Pretty axiomatic that any time a pitcher gets 4 plate appearances in a game, he's had a good night.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the midnight portion of our show.
That's right. We're in AM here, which means it's the 20th right now.
Yes. That
Excellent.
comes right after the 19th, so it's no longer Ronnie's birthday anymore.
11 days to get out of August now. I say that purely as a player because August was always the toughest month. No matter what situation you were in, whether you were in last place, 40 games out, or first place are in contention. August is the dog days, boy, and the 31 days in that month just seem like they go forever.
So you're saying if you were to redo the calendar, you'd do it with 28 days in August?
Yes, and make February 31.
Well, you know, we can write to the powers that be. I'm not sure who's in charge of that. You mean even if you're the Brewers and you've won 19 of your last 22, you're still waiting for August to end?
Well, it hasn't been that hot.
Marcum strikes out. First strikeout for Carrasco, and they play their home games indoors, so
yes,
they're never particularly hot. I mean, you hit .310 in August. It was your second best month.
I always played well in August. Because I always played well in August because that's when you had to push yourself. I was always able to push myself to the limits.
Isn't that an Eagles song?
That was actually written. That song was written by Jackson Brown. Take it to the limit.
Jackson Brown wrote a lot of wonderful songs, including his own. Corey Hart 1 for 4 at Bloop double back in the 5th inning. The Brewers got an unearned run in the first off Mike Pelfrey. Then they opened it up with 3 in the 5th. Pelfrey left after 5, and they got 2 more off Carrasco in the 6th. Mets have had very little working against Marcum. Toward the middle of the diamond, flashing over Tejada to make the play, and the running toss gets Hart to end the inning. Nice play by Ruben Tejada to get Carrasco through the top of the 7th. Stretch time after midnight, 6-0. Remember to get dunked. Go to getdunked.com. Well, the diehards are still here after midnight. Long rain delay at the start of the game. Mets getting blanked over the first 6 innings. Now Mike Baxter will lead off in the bottom of the 7th against Shaun Marcum. Baxter is 0 for 2, and he bounces one foul down past Mookie Wilson, who does a nice half step to get out of the way.
Well, no one's got to work tomorrow, Jared. Most people don't have to work tomorrow.
Well, you don't have to work tomorrow.
That's neither do you.
It's a network TV game tomorrow.
Correct.
You think the network guys are still here?
No.
You think they're back in their hotel room?
Yeah, they can watch the game on TV.
Oh, they're watching us.
Of course.
Oh.
They're trying to get some tips.
Do you think they've learned? Do you think they've learned anything from watching us tonight? 2-1 to Baxter with Jason Pridey and Josh Tolley to follow. And Baxter hits it out to right center. Should be easy for Corey Hart. And there's one away. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Jason Pridey. Pridey is popped to third and fly to right, 0 for 2.
Swedish fish.
Tootsie Pops just arrived.
And Swedish fish.
Well, I don't need Swedish fish. Gummy candy I've never understood.
Don't take it away, Russ. Leave it right there.
What are you going to have?
I want to read the nutritional value of Swedish fish.
It's pure sugar. Come on.
Oh, it's 0 grams fat, though.
Right. Or anything else.
So there's no trans fat, so that'll get by the scrutiny of the Mayor Bloomberg. Oh, 41
grams of sugar.
Yes.
Pridey hits it deep to right center field. Back goes Hart onto the track, and he can't get it. It's off the Xerox side. Pridey pulls in at second base with a 1-out double. So Jason Pridey, who's hit 3 home runs this year, couple of them to just that spot, finds the range and hits a 2-base hit.
Got a changeup right there, too much in the middle. Corey Hart just kind of misplayed this ball a little bit, didn't get a straight line on it. And there's that funky wall right there. I think that's what kind of got him confused.
Name of the wall? Funky wall.
Very good, Gary. I mean, you're very funny.
Only after midnight.
I appreciate your humor.
Josh Tolley's 0 for 2. He's grounded to third and taking a call third strike. Well, I have my Tootsie Pop now, so I'm a much happier camper. And the curveball from Marcum, just a little low, 1-0. Ruben Tejada waiting on deck. He's had the best offensive night of any Met with a couple of hits. Shaun Marcum continues to hold the Mets at bay. Oh, there's another box of Tootsie Pops. Got chocolate ones in there.
What flavor you want, Al?
Al, our cameraman, wants them all. It's been a long time since I've seen you have a Tootsie Pop.
I know.
Used to be part of your regular repertoire.
Yeah, when I was 250 pounds.
What are you down to now?
220, 225.
What'd you play at?
Well, this is my playing weight. I brought the wrong shirt, folks. Sorry. I thought it was an SNY game. It was a PIX game. So I came to the park with this on, and I had the wrong shirt, so I was kind of stuck.
You're just getting ready for football season. You got your Broncos shirt on, but you're not a Broncos fan, are you?
No, I was always a Raider fan back in the day.
Daryl LaMonica, Raiders.
Yes, and Plunkett. But I was a Viking fan, believe it or not. Bud Grant days. I loved the Vikings. I like the LA Rams back in the Roman Gabriel days.
But you grew up in the Bay Area. You weren't a 49ers guy?
49ers were El Stinko back when I was a kid growing up. They traded Y.A. Tittle to the Giants, and they paid for that.
Pre-Bill Walsh. You weren't a John Brody guy?
No, I wasn't.
Gene Washington?
No, they weren't.
Kermit Alexander?
You're right. Abe Woodson. I go that far back. Matt Hazeltine. Bob St. Clair. Leo Namalini.
Now you've lost me. See, that's the problem. You're a few years older than I am. Sometimes you just lose me. 2-2 to Tolley with Friday at second. And he jumps back 3-2. Marcum has walked only one tonight. Struck out 3. Allowed no runs and 5 hits. Ruben Tejada on deck. Pitcher's spot behind him.
Well, I just got texted by a friend of mine in Manhattan who's actually watching this game and said, nice shirt.
It is a lovely shirt if you're in, in Denver. I mean, what's the vintage of that shirt? Is that a new shirt or is that an old shirt?
I saw this shirt online. It was a catalog, so it is a retro shirt.
I see. So it's a new old shirt.
It's the old Orange Crush. It was the old.
Right.
So Corolla's watching in Manhattan right now, and thanks, Corolla. I'm glad you like my shirt.
It's a lovely shirt. It's not a PIX shirt, but it's a lovely shirt. 3-2 to Tolley, and it's pulled into right for a base hit. Friday to third, he'll be waved around with the first Met run of the night. So Josh Tolley gets the Mets on the board against Shaun Marcum for the first time. And it cuts the Brewers lead to 6-1. 29th RBI for Tolley.
Well, Marcum getting hurt with a changeup again by the left-handers. Right in the same spot. He's getting it down. And there's the circle change. See the index finger forming that circle. He's getting it down and getting sink, but he's getting hurt because it's over the middle, not on the outside corner.
Well, after Marcum had thrown 12 scoreless innings against the Mets, they finally scratch against him in the 7th tonight. 103 pitches now for Marcum as he faces Ruben Tejada. Scott Hairston out on deck to pinch hit. Tejada's 2 for 2, twice has singled up the middle. And he takes ball 1 from Marcum.
And both his base hits have been on breaking ball.
The Brewers start to get their bullpen cranked up. They've had a pretty solid combination. Cameron Lowe is up now. Ever since Frankie Rodriguez went to Milwaukee. As Tejada hits one down the right side foul. They've had Lowe and Takashi Saito share the 7th inning. K-Rod has pitched the 8th, and John Axford has been practically perfect, has been closing.
There's K-Rod.
Back in his old haunts. Talked to reporters before the game today, said he would love to someday return to New York to pitch. 1-1 to Tejada. Pulled down to third. McGee from a knee. Gets it to Counsell and on to first for the 5-4-3 double play to end the inning. Mets scratch a run out. Tolley drives in Friday, but it's 6-1 Brewers after 7. Made an error in the first inning. He's been making up for it ever since.
Oh, beautiful backhand right there. Starts the 5-5-3 double play. And then a bare hand right there. Nice scoop by Duda.
Did you like that flashing video effect?
I did.
Wasn't that cool? We're getting very fancy.
I thought I was hallucinating.
Like the old days.
Right.
Tim Burdack comes on to pitch for the Mets in the 8th.
Well, Burdack has had a pretty fine season with the Mets. The only left-hander pretty much predominantly the whole season. And Igarashi getting loose out there in the bullpen has been a tough slog for him of late. He's been coughing it up a little bit, having a hard time.
Nyjer Morgan leads off in the 8th inning. Morgan 2 for 3 in a sacrifice, a single, a double, a stolen base. He scored a run. And facing the left-hander, he takes a strike. Burdack pitched on Wednesday in San Diego, walked the only man to face him. But he has been awfully good for a bullpen that has been mostly not very good. That's bullpen in the month of August has an earned run average of 5.73, and it didn't get any better in the 2 innings pitched tonight by DJ Carrasco. He allowed 2 runs and 3 hits, a walk, a strikeout, a wild pitch.
I find it interesting. You saw the innings pitched by Burdack, not even 30 innings, and he's the only Met left-hander in that bullpen.
And he strikes out Morgan on 3 pitches. So in an inning where the Brewers will send up 3 lefties in a row, he takes care of the first one.
Throwing more fastballs for Burdack of late. Before he was pretty much a slider pitcher. But that kind of, you see the Met bullpen has been a struggle. Certainly no fault of Burdack's.
There's Mark Kotsay, who came on for Ryan Braun when he was ejected in the 3rd inning, and he takes a slider for a strike. Kotsay walked and scored, fly to right, 0 for 1. Well, in D.C. tonight, the Phillies had a 4-0 lead. They're now in the bottom of the 9th. The Nationals are a run in. It's 4-3, and the Nats have the bases loaded and 1 out against Ryan Madsen, trying to come from behind.
Who started the game for the Phils?
Oswalt was supposed to start, but because of the rain delay, they started Kendrick instead.
Right. You mentioned that. And Lowe won for Atlanta.
Yeah, Lowe beat Daniel Hudson tonight. So Kennedy and Hudson have lost on back-to-back days. Of course, Kennedy got beat by the Phillies yesterday in the last game of that series. Prevented the Diamondbacks from sweeping.
Diamondbacks beat Halladay.
Rolled over down to first. Duda's got it. Burdack better hurry, and he gets there just in time to beat Kotsay for the 2nd out. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Prince Fielder. First time he'll come to bat with the bases empty today. He's reached base 4 times on 2 singles and 2 intentional walks. He's driven in 2. He's scored 2. So a very productive day for the Brewers cleanup hitter. He's in the top 10 in virtually every offensive category. Now has 92 RBIs. That's 2nd behind Ryan Howard. Now has 79 runs scored. That's in the top 10 in the league. Drew his 20th intentional walk tonight, most in the league. 27 home runs, 29 doubles. He's had a marvelous season approaching free agency. And Burdack sends a little message. We talked earlier in the game about Fielder and Pujols both being on the free agent market, 2 elite first basemen. What'll be very interesting in the market is that most of the teams with the most money already have long-term solutions at first base. Harris playing on the outfield grass, throws out Fielder. 1-2-3 inning, first one generated by a Mets pitcher tonight. We go to the bottom of the 8th at 6-1 Milwaukee, and Fielder getting into a little bit of a shouting match with Burdack. Tempers flaring. Prince Fielder took exception to that inside first pitch from Tim Burdick, and when the inning was over and Fielder grounded out, he started to go after Tim Burdick as he came off the mound.
That's, come on. That's silly and uncalled for. And he had if he was really angry, he had a chance to take a pop at him, and he didn't. So
both benches, both bullpens emptied. There were no punches thrown and very little pushing and shoving. Mostly it was just words as Fielder took that right turn after crossing first base and went right to Burdick, and clearly was objecting to that inside first pitch. K-Rod getting back together with Mets bullpen catcher Dave Roccanello, who used to warm him up in the bullpen when he worked here. Here's the pitch that started that at bat.
So not even that close, really. Come on.
Prince Fielder has taken his position at first base, and I don't know whether the umpires are taking any kind of disciplinary action. Tim Burdick went off to the dugout. He wouldn't be pitching in the next inning anyway. Here's what happened when Fielder ran to first base on the ground ball. And the way Fielder reacted, it was almost as though maybe he thought Burdick had said something to him. Well, Josh Tolley quickly getting in the way to protect his pitcher, and Casey McGee smartly steering Fielder out of the way. The last thing that this contending team needs is for their big guy to get suspended. But he was not even ejected for that action.
Oh well. On to the next page.
So everybody has cooled down. New pitcher in the game for Milwaukee is Cameron Lowe, after Shaun Marcum went 7 stellar innings.
Lowe had an appearance in that series in Milwaukee, and the Mets just touched him up big time in a very close ball game. They blew it out, hammered him. But
Justin Turner will bat for Burdick as we start the bottom of the 8th. Turner not starting for the second straight game, and takes inside, probably to be expected. Ball 1 to Turner.
Never could figure that one out, What did Turner do? Didn't do anything, did he?
Just stood in the batter's box.
Now, granted, you can't throw at a relief pitcher. He's not going to be around. Going to always be pinch hit for, but I always felt it was the pitcher out there who threw it. Drill him.
Of course, that's the problem in the American League that they have, where the pitchers don't come to bat. There's no avenue to retaliate, and sometimes you have to wait years, as the Mets did with Roger Clemens, if you remember that fiasco.
Oh, yeah. If you recall, we were watching during the rain delay the '86 tape of the season, and Darrell's home run off of Nipper, and we came back next season in spring training and played Boston, and Nipper thought that Darrell Cadillac'd it around the bench, and he hit Darrell.
McGee with the pickup, low throw, and Fielder digs it out to retire Turner. So you're saying that Nipper hit Strawberry as retaliation
in spring training,
going too slow around the bases in the World Series game?
Yes, and Darrell charged him out to fight.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Angel Pagan, who's 2 for 3. Well, we've gotten a little more information on what transpired between Fielder and Burdick. I think you could probably see it when we showed the isolation of Fielder running to first base, that he yelled something right before he got to the bag, and it appeared to be self-directed more than anything else. And apparently Burdick reacted to Fielder saying that.
So Fielder right here is going shoot.
Right. And then he says something else right here. And then Burdick apparently reacted as Fielder went by, thinking that Fielder was directing whatever that was at Burdick, and Fielder made that double back, pointed at himself, and basically said, I was yelling at myself.
Or the first baseman could have said something derogatory to the pitcher because you got him out, called him a name. You know, it could have been that way too.
And he might be saying, hey, I was directing that name at myself.
So, okay, fine. So, you know what? What is it? We're at the bottom of the 8th.
Right.
Perfect. Pagan's up. It's over. Done.
2 more games to go in this series. 3-1 to Pagan, and that's a call strike. 3-2. And he read lips. He says, I was talking to myself.
Okay, so now they're cool. I'm cool.
All right. So the question is, why did he have to charge at Burdick to say that? And I guess that's why Tolle is saying
he was
back off.
He was still angry at his at bat. That's probably why.
Pagan floats one the other way, and he's got himself his 3rd hit of the day. And Pagan will make it easily to second with his 2nd double of the game. Well, this is what Pagan's been doing lately, just putting the ball in play, and he's getting some good results.
He just kind of slaps that ball into left field, pokes it there, and that's been his issue. Left hand is pulling off. He's staying in.
2nd double of the game, 18th of the year, so a 3-hit night for Pagan. The Mets had their 7th hit of the game. Runner at second with 1 out for Willie Harris, who's gone 0 for 3. Shaun Marcum went 7 innings, allowed a run on 6 hits, a walk, 3 strikeouts, in line for his 11th win against 3 losses. And for Marcum, who has been the king of the no decision, he'll be happy to come away with a victory. Marcum hasn't lost a game since June. His last loss actually came in New York against the Yankees during interleague play in late June. One 1-0 to Willie Harris. And he lifts one foul. Well, there should be a souvenir for just about everybody left now. Crowd is thinned out. Well past midnight. 24,000 plus paid tonight. And as we mentioned earlier, the Mets making a very nice gesture to all ticket holders tonight, whether they came to the game or not. They'll be rewarded with a free ticket to a game in the series with the Nationals September 12th through the 15th. And Harris gets tied in a knot. It's 1-2.
Pretty good slider right here. I think it just completely fooled Harris.
Well, we told you about the Nationals trying to come back against the Phillies. They tied it up 4-4, and then Ryan Zimmerman hit a grand slam to win it for the Nationals 8-4, a 6-run bottom of the 9th as they beat the Phils. Pagan gets back to the bag as Betancourt throws out Harris for the 2nd out. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Apollo 18 in theaters everywhere September 2nd.
Well, ball hit to your left, advance, and he goes back.
Well, that's the 2nd time he's played safety first in a place where he could have.
I wouldn't even call it safety first, but
I mean, in the 6th inning, they had the infield back. He was at 3rd base.
Aaron Judgment.
And he went back to the bag on a grounder to 3rd. So 2 out. Pagan still at 2nd. Now David Wright, who's 0 for 2 and a walk. And Lowe misses low and away. Ball 1.
Oh.
Is that left over from New Year's?
Oh, 50th.
Well, that's exciting. You remember 50, right?
Oh, yes. I remember when you wore a gown of gold.
Chevalier?
That was Hermione Gingle and that lovely duet they sang together, and Gigi.
Ah, yes. I remember it well. 2 balls and a strike to Wright. Yeah, if the Mets can get right on, get Duda to the plate, have him hit one out of sight, all of a sudden you got yourself a ball game here in the 8th.
Well, look what happened in Washington.
That's right. It's going to take solace from the Nats comeback. Down 4-0. They win it on the walk-off grand slam by Ryan Zimmerman after midnight. And the curveball for a strike from Lowe, 2-2.
Well, the Nats, if the Mets wind up losing this ball game, would overtake the Mets to move into 3rd place by a half game.
Yep. Now the 2-2, and David went around on the half swing and foul tipped it and just stays alive. Now look who's up in the Brewers bullpen. Old friend Francisco Rodriguez getting ready to pitch. Back at his old haunts. Cameron Lowe trying to put this inning to bed. And Wright again just stays alive. Ryota Igarashi getting ready in the Mets bullpen to pitch the top of the 9th. Lowe's already thrown 20 pitches in this 8th inning. One more to make here to Wright. And David foul tips it. That one's held by Lucroy. And the inning is over. A double and 1 left. We go to the 9th, 6-1 Milwaukee. Pitch the top of the 9th for New York.
No, Igarashi has been going through a period here where he's given up 2 or more runs and more than a few outings in a row. It's been a struggle and reflective of the ERA over 5, well over 5 now. Way too many walks for innings pitched. And he has regressed.
He worked the game on Wednesday in San Diego, pitched the 9th inning in that game, gave up 2 runs on 2 hits. Joe Pignatano had stuck it out through 8 innings, but Piggy heads for the exits. He doesn't want to see the triple play.
Huh.
The Mets had a game end on a triple play last year. Remember that? Playing the Phillies.
Yes.
Jeff Francoeur hit into the unassisted triple play by Eric Bruntlett.
Francoeur got a 2-year extension, did he not? I read in the paper from Kansas City.
He did, and that's good for him. He's having a good year. You know, people get on him because his on-base percentage is low, but his slugging percentage is high. He's playing great defense, and they like him very much in Kansas City. Right-hander is Frankie De La Cruz on the right, and the right-hander on the left is Frankie Rodriguez, just to keep your Frankies straight. But Kansas City actually has had a very productive outfield this year with a couple of veteran players with Francoeur and Melky Cabrera. And then Alex Gordon, who was moved from the infield to the outfield, has played very well in left. So a Kansas City team that appears to be on the rise with some young talent, trying to keep something of a core together by re-signing Francoeur. And the curveball from Igarashi misses 2-1. Casey McGee is 3 for 4 tonight. He's driven in 2 runs. It was 2 years ago that Francoeur hit into that game-ending triple play. McGee gets a hold of one deep to left, right down the line, back toward the corner, and it hooks foul. So McGee making a bid for his 9th home run of the year. Didn't miss by much.
Well, I know it's late and with a lot of rain, but these were the crowds at Candlestick Park when the Giants were terrible back in the 70s.
Look, a Brewers fan. He came with his own cheese.
Is he awake? Oh, he blinked.
Yeah, I think he's texting, saying, everybody back home, look for me on TV. I've got cheese on my head.
He's texting.
I mean, if you came all this way and brought your own cheese head, you'd think you'd be a little more into the game. Three and two to McGee with Betancourt and Lucroy to follow here in the top of the ninth. And Igarashi walks the first man to face him. And this has been an ongoing problem for Igarashi. So McGee's on base for the fourth time today. That is 6 walks by Met pitching, albeit 3 of them have been intentional walks. And here is Betancourt, who's 1 for 4, doubled in a run back in the fifth. That snapped an 0 for 16 stretch for Yuniesky Betancourt. So we mentioned long ago when we first started the broadcast tonight that the Brewers manager Ron Renege is celebrating a birthday today. Now, if the Brewers win this game, it's not his birthday anymore. Will it count as a victory on his birthday?
That's a very good point, Gare.
He's now 55 in a day.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight because of that. Thanks a lot for bringing that up.
Okay, let me give you one that you can handle a little better. There's an intent Met fan. He's got those Ryan Braun eyes. Look what Braun is doing now.
Oh well, he's been relaxing.
If you get ejected from a game, you have to stay in the ballpark, right?
I don't know.
Leave.
Well, you shouldn't leave. No, you should not leave. You should never leave your teammates.
So there's a possibility that he's listening to every word you say.
Of course.
Fouled off by Betancourt, 1 and 2. What I was going to ask you about Reneke is, first-year manager, comes over from the American League, doing a fantastic job, obviously, with the first-place team. You've got Kirk Gibson in Arizona, got his team in first place.
Yep.
How do you decide between those two guys for manager of the year? Or do you have another candidate in there?
I've got to feel the team with the less talent would maybe tilt the scales towards that manager. You know, the manager that gets more out of less. And I mean, we saw Arizona earlier in the year, and they looked awful.
Well, they've got one superstar player in Justin Upton, and they've gotten some pretty good pitching. But you're right, they're not overly blessed with a lot of talent. Here's the 2-2, and that's hit to center field. Chasing Pagan back. He got a late start, but he makes up for it with a nice burst of speed to retire Betancourt, 1 away.
I mean, for a while there, before the Pirates just fell out of it, Clint Hurdle was obviously getting the most out of less.
And certainly Terry Collins was in that conversation as well. But I think as this season has progressed, I think you look at Arizona and you look at Milwaukee, and I think you have to focus on those two guys.
I agree.
You can't knock what Freddie Gonzalez has done with the Braves. I mean, that might get him some consideration as well. Jonathan Lucroy takes a strike. And then you can even throw Charlie Manuel into that mix. Everybody kind of conceded them the division when the year began, but they have maybe even overperformed everybody's expectations. Ball and a strike to Lucroy. Lucroy's 0 for 4 tonight. Hit hard, and David Wright, another backhand play out at second, and Harris turns it over for the 5-4-3 double play. David Wright has had himself some defensive game. 6-1 Brewers after 8. Now let's head to the PIX11 newsroom and check in with Jody Applegate. Cruz, better known as Frankie, will pitch for the Brewers in the bottom of the ninth.
Well, thank goodness for that. Maybe just see second appearance here, a third appearance. So far so good for him.
This came up from Nashville a few days ago. Was a starting pitcher in the minor leagues this year. Went 7-6, 3.88 ERA. He pitched in Japan the last couple of years, and then came back to sign a minor league contract with the Brewers, and now getting his third appearance with Milwaukee. Last of the ninth, Lucas Duda leads off for New York. Mets have been held to a run on 7 hits tonight. And the home plate umpire, Angel Campos, just went out to say something to De La Cruz. Is he saying that he went to his mouth on the mound? I thought you were allowed to do that now as long as you wipe it off. Maybe that's what he was telling him. And Duda takes a fastball for a strike. It'll be Duda, Baxter, and Pridey, 3 left-hand hitters for the Mets in the last of the ninth. Ball and a strike to Duda. Coming up next on PIX, hey, Seinfeld. Maybe it's your episode.
Oh, yes.
Next on SNY, Lincoln Postgame Live, which you will not be on. 1 and 2 to Duda, unless you're going to make a special guest appearance.
We're in the 9th inning.
Last of the ninth. Pulled foul by Duda. 1 and 2. Lucas is 0 for 3 today. Hit one sharply back to Marcum his last time up, and Marcum was able to knock it down and throw him out. De La Cruz has that hat a little soiled. A little rosin, a little dirt. Makes it look broken in. Right at the second baseman council. And Duda's retired. 1 down in the last of the ninth. Well, the Mets are on the verge of tying a major league record that they set in 1979. Losing the first game of 10 consecutive homestands. They'll be the first team ever to lose the first game of their first 10 homestands in a season. Certainly a dubious record at best. Mike Baxter is 0 for 3, struck out, fouled out, fly to right. Mets have a late afternoon game. I guess that's later today. Chris Capuano, the former Brewer, will go up against Randy Wolf.
That's the game of the world right there, is it not? 4 o'clock start.
It's Bill Webb's game of the world. There's a strike, 1 and 2.
Well, we're very pleased because Bill doesn't have to go cross country to do a game of the week. He's right here. Makes it very easy for him. The old
he's very well traveled.
The old pro that he is.
Did you just say old? It's going to turn your microphone off if you say old again. 2-2 from De La Cruz to Baxter, and it comes inside and hits him. Well, we had Fielder object to an inside pitch from Burdack, and that led to a little dust up earlier. No reaction here, except De La Cruz looked upset with himself after hitting Baxter with 2 strikes.
Well, the catcher set up in, and he just missed. He got that cutter in there.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Jason Pridey, who scored the only Met run, doubled to right center in the 7th, came home on Tolley's single. And Fielder tells De La Cruz he's going to play behind Baxter at first. Rick Kranitz, the pitching coach, on the phone, and they may get somebody up in the bullpen. It's only a 5-run lead.
Right. They don't want the game getting away here. They're going to have someone ready just in case a fire gets started.
They were able to stay away from their primary relievers yesterday in their loss to the Dodgers, but they're going to get their closer John Axford. Well, at least he's gotten to the bubble gum, so that's halfway to the mound.
That's important.
It's all in the preparation. 0-2 now to Pridey. Josh Tolley waiting on deck. And now Axford has his gum, has his glove, has his hat, has his rosin bag. All he needs is the baseball, and he's set to go. Routine. To the right side, Counsell will go to first with it. And that's the second out. Baxter to second, and now the Mets are down to their final out of the morning. Josh Thole has the only RBI for the Mets. Now this game began, what, 9:56 after a long rain delay. It rained like heck here for a while. But the rain cleared out. They were patient, started the game, and haven't had a speck of rain since. Tolley's 1 for 3 on the day. Frankie De La Cruz trying to put on the finishing touches. Shaun Marcum in line for his 11th win. And it's in for a strike at the knees to Thole, 0-1. Late swing foul, and now De La Cruz ahead on Thole, 0-2. Barry Collins watching his team about to lose for the 13th time in their last 18 games. Now the 0-2, and Thole swings and misses at the curveball, and De La Cruz finishes it off for the Brewers as they win for the 20th time in their last 23 games. A 6-1 Milwaukee victory at 12:51 a.m.
Well, the Mets really were never in this ball game early. Pelfrey got off to a hot start, but it hit into one of those middle innings again. It's been his Achilles heel, giving up 3 in the 5th inning on 4 hits, 4 Brewer hits, and then Carrasco came in and gave up 2 more runs in the second and in the 6th inning, excuse me, and out hit the Mets. 11 hits for the Brewers, 7 for the Mets, and they weren't really in this game.
Subway presents today's winning box score. Subway, where winners eat. The Brewers lost their number 3 hitter, Ryan Braun, to ejection after a call 3rd strike in the 3rd. No matter, Casey McGee had a big game, 3 for 4, drove in a couple of runs. Prince Fielder drove in the first 2 runs for Milwaukee. He now has 92 runs batted in for the year. And Ron Renneke, 52 minutes after his birthday came to an end, still in conversation with Ed Rapuano. 6-1 the final Milwaukee. We'll be right back.